Hello, everyone. Da-da-da-da. Take this off. Hope everybody is all right. Checking if everything's okay. Everything seems all right. Thank you, Blogger Dive, for the audio check. So everything seems okay. And here we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the monthly live show, first Saturday of each month. And this is okay. Oh, okay, here. So, welcome once again. So, this is a show about radio, shortwave radio, all sorts of radio. Radio is, you know, a, not just a hobby, it's also a great way to inform. And we are live, of course, the first Saturday of each month with this show at 20 hours Universal Time. We also have a Zoom that is for those that contribute. There will be different ways I will actually give the information for contributions, helping out on the channel. And this is going to happen. I was thinking of May 25th. It might be early, like somewhere in June instead, because of something that I totally forgot that May 25th I am not available. So that would be like probably in the second or third week of maybe more the second week of June. So it's coming up. And always, I've got the emails of all of those that already sent a contribution. And for those that will contribute today, tomorrow, next week, whatever, as long as I need your email. So we'll talk about that. So welcome aboard. There is a beautiful chat room with wonderful people that are really great, helpful, and a lot of fun to um, to be here. And the people are, it's one of the best chat rooms, the best. I think we have the best group ever here. And when that is over, we do have the Facebook group, which is the same name as the channel, official SWL channel. And there's about 3,600 people there, 3,600. So that is relatively also fun because a lot of people are sharing what they're listening to and so on. Cheers. So it's kind of fun to have all the people, just joining in and seeing all of you share about radio, talk about radio, and so on. It's always cool. So welcome aboard. My name is Gilles. I'm located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, northeast part of North America. And this is where this live show is coming from. So welcome, everybody. We'll talk about what we've talked about a lot in the last few last week or so, or a week and a half, this famous Shoyoung LC90 receiver. We'll also talk about, we've had some feedback from the CEO at Shoyoung Radios. So we'll talk about all of that during the show also. Master Players, Radio and Television plus Gaming. Nice to have you here, Bobby. WA5107 SWL in Morgan City, Louisiana. Valtz, nice to have you here from Latvia. Valtz, once again, a relatively new ham. So congratulations once again on that. We almost made an FT8 contact, but I think it didn't complete, if I'm not mistaken. Richard Wagner, nice to have you here from Northeast Illinois, 82 and cloudy here. It's Montreal. It's about 70 Fahrenheit, 21 Celsius. Beautiful day today. It's really, really nice outside. TVDXer, bonjour et bienvenue. J'espère que tu vas bien toi aussi. Nice to have you on board. Robert Varner, nice to have you on board from New Jersey, KC2TEL. Mark Drigger, nice to have you here. Ça va bien? J'espère que tu vas bien. Brad, nice to have you on board from Texas, I believe, and 5LUL. W85192 is WL. James Larimore from Delaware, nice to have you here. KC3YUN. Blogger Die, nice to have you on board. We have, sorry guys, we have Chuck Schreiber, nice to have you on board, and 5KVO from South Texas. Art, nice to have you on board from New Jersey, K2ADC. Keegan, nice to have you on board from Northwest Arkansas. It's 80 degrees Fahrenheit there and cloudy. We have Jean Arash. Salut, nice to have you on board. We have Jeff King. Nice to have you here from Jacksonville, Florida. We have John Beckham. Nice to have you on board from Northeast Florida. And 73 is from Radio Marti Land. Valls, a question for you. DX10, amp 1 plus attenuator or amp 1 plus RF gain reduction? This in case when IPO is a bit too few amplification. Yeah. Well, whatever suits you. Honestly, I most of the time I run directly from with the IPO. I rarely amplify anything, and especially with a high noise here, it's like even with IPO, my S meter is often indicating that there's noise, anyways. But yeah, attenuation is RF gain. You got more control because it's more incremental on the RF gain than the attenuation that is more of fixed values. So whatever suits you, honestly. Gary 24 fan, nice to have you on board from Northern Maine. John Beckham, nice to have you here. Neil, nice to have you on board in the gym, on the treadmill, watching the show in the UK. So staying in shape while watching the show, that's perfect. M0CJM, nice to have you here. Xeon, is the Texan PL330 receiver a good one? It's one of the best that money can buy, honestly. Not too expensive and really, really good value for a receiver. RY491, nice to have you on board from the UK. G6TKV. Keegan DXer is having some Texas tea brand Poteet strawberry white tea. Cool. I'm just going to do something here. It's there we go. Mohammed Hussein should not be here, so I just blocked him. Get out. We don't want hate speech here. Glenn Danzer, nice to have you here from South Carolina. 57 SW, nice to have you on board from Southeast Georgia. Peter John Fetting, nice to have you on board from South Africa. The ZR6 PCF, pretty nice to have you here. To thank you, Master Players Radio, for the tip, much appreciated. RJ Dakota, nice to have you on board. We have Ricky Long, nice to have you on board. J'espère que tu vas bien toi aussi. Nice to have you on board from Alberta. John Beckham, nice to have you here. I think it's the third time I'm saying that to you. Rick is listening while doing errands. Perfect. And Steve Burnham, nice to have you on board from Williamsport, Pennsylvania. Darren Rogers, nice to have you here from Long Island, New York. Rudy Sagner, nice to have you on board from Austria. Nice to have you. Nice to have Austria in the house. Tassovi, nice to have you on board from Queens, New York. And we have Blogger Die says, well, I was going to go out with a radio, but it started raining. Darn it. S. Wainwright, nice to have you on board from Australia, all the way from the future, where it's Sunday morning. Nice to have you on board. What else do we have? Artist Other Crafters Kitchen and Audio Lab, nice to have you here from Massachusetts. Rare Saturday off. Just add Spirit of St. Louis Flight Case Radio out in the park. Never had so many people ask me all about a radio ever. That's cool. That's cool. Okay. What else do we have? MDK2, Matt, nice to have you on board, by the way. I think I didn't say hi to you as you were doing a moderator job. What else do we have here? Kathleen Al, nice to have you here from Germany. Pretty cool. We have DX Swinger, nice to have you on board from Southeast Pennsylvania. And what else do we have? VE5SAR, Unseasoned Ham Radio. Nice to have you on board from Saskatchewan. So it's pretty cool to have everybody here. For the first little time, so if you guys want to contribute to help out, you can contribute via the super chat here, where you have that little $sign where you can give a little something. PayPal, which is even better because it has absolutely a very small amount of fees compared to what YouTube takes through the super chat. You can send a PayPal contribution to the email address, the Yahoo email I just posted. And of course, all of that helps. And everybody that contributes to the show is invited to the Zoom, which is a special Zoom, where we tune the bands together and do all sorts of, it's kind of cool. We see each other also at the same time. It's like a virtual meeting. That's a meetup. That's really nice and reserved to all those that contribute. Whatever amount helps out. Okay. First thing before we continue, we're going to talk about the Winter Shortwave Festival, or rather, pretty much spring now. It's next week. So if you are interested in that, the Shortwave Festival is coming up, and it starts on Friday. swlfest.com is where you go if you want to participate to the meetup, either virtual on Zoom or in person. If it's in person, of course, here's the website. If it's in person, there's a maximum of 65 people, so make sure that there's still some places left. And for Zoom, there's just no limit. The Zoom registration is $20. The in-person event is $45 US. And it's the 37th Winter Shortwave Festival. And it will also start off, because we will have the CIDX Club, Canadian International DX Club, will have a virtual hospitality suite where we will, of course, greet people and have a lot of fun. That starts actually on Thursday night. So Thursday night, you can become part of that and be with us as a kind of an icebreaker evening where we'll meet each other. Then there's the fest on Friday and Saturday. So the schedule for the fest is that there will be at, so I'll be checking it out here at 13 UTC on Friday morning, 9 a.m. actually in Eastern time, which is 13 UTC. There will be the first ham radio session with Fred Zalewski. And then at 15 UTC, there's a pirate session with Larry Will. There will be a break at 16 UTC. Then things come back and continue at 18 UTC full wave and half loop antennas by Jeff Eigner at 20 UTC, using and abusing measurements and test equipment as receivers. This is by Matt Blaze. At 21 UTC will be a break, and then at 23:30 UTC, DXing on the Road by Don Moore, which is all presentations that will happen. And finally, at 01 UTC, will be the Shortwave Shindig, No Longer in Exile by David Gordon. On Saturday, it continues with, at 13 UTC, Mission Impossible, The Search for the Perfect Receiver by Dan Robinson. At 15 UTC, Blast from the Past, Using Older Scanners Today by Tom Swisher. Then at 18 hours UTC, you'll have Ending Geofencing as You Know It by Rob DeSantos. At 20 hours Universal Time, you will have Party Like It's 1975 with Skip Airy and 2EI. That's often in the chat room here. So this is going to be a lot of fun if you like it. And of course, Hospitality Suite will be open all day on Friday, Saturday. Usually it ends really late Saturday night into the Sunday morning sometimes. And of course, the icebreaker on the Thursday evening. So if you want to join, once again, it's $20 for the Zoom, which is a virtual event. Everybody can participate. And it's $45 in person. It's coming up in just a few days, in a week's time from now. So I hope to see you there, and hope that everybody is going to be interested in participating into this year's Winter Shortwave Festival. Richard Cuff and John Ficliozzi are the Festmeisters. They are all behind all of this. So it's going to be interesting to see the first hybrid event, because before it was in person only. Pandemic hit, it became a virtual event for 3 years. And this year is back to a mix of, actually the first time they'll do this, mix of in-person and virtual. Okay, what else do we have? Jim Gordon, nice to have you here from Dundee, Scotland. And nice to have you on board. And drinking a Black Heart from Brewdog Brewery here in Scotland. Cool. There's actually a company that contacted me last week for my videos and live shows. And it's a company that makes a home brewing machine, and you have all the kit like to make beer at home. So they were wondering if I was interested in advertising their product. So I kind of inquired. I'm waiting for them to come back to me, but kind of told them that, yeah, it could be interesting, and that would be a little revenue that could add a few dollars to the channel. So why not? So we'll see what happens with that. But looks kind of cool, and would give me the machine and give me a supply each month of different beers. So we'll see if that goes through. What else do we have? Vaults, have you in the LOTW, but maybe you did not receive my 73. It was quite hard for you to hear me, as I remember. Yeah, well, I was. It was an off and off thing. It's. I'll check it out. I'll add you. I don't know if I added you anyway, but I didn't get that. I think I didn't get the 73 back. So, but hey, when I saw your call, it was kind of cool. Like, hey, it's Waltz. I like the pictures right away on your Cure Z page. So, anyways, we'll be. I'll check that out. I'll check that out for sure. But it's always cool. It's always cool. And we'll probably have a chance in doing it in some other frequency range, another band. And who knows, maybe once a single sideband voice would be cool. Upstate SWL, nice to have you on board from South Carolina. Chris66, nice to have you here from Kentucky. Kevin Upton, nice to have you here. George Sweeter, nice to have you on board from Mexico. John Beckham, I'm so glad that I found you on this first Saturday in May. How is Propagation doing to be this month in regards to sunspot activity? Thanks. So we're the sun is really active. Lots of things happening. I think it's going to be an interesting time to check out Propagation. In between the solar flares and the geomagnetic storms that might come from all of the activity, but sun is pretty active. High frequencies are propagating well. Now we're getting into that time where 10 meters isn't much of an interesting thing here in the northern hemisphere. Not like when we have winter and we have all of the DX that's going on now. We're a little more localized, I see. But the bands are just great. I mean, 20 meters open now, 24 hours, pretty much, and we'll be like that until at least August. And even 17 and 15 meters seem to be open very late. I made contacts with Japan on 15 meters, 21 megahertz, at 05, 04, and 05 UT. That's midnight, 1 a.m. here. It's been dark for a long time, so it's over the pole. Propagation is good enough that the signals actually propagate over the pole, even on 15 meters. I'm almost wondering if 15 meters, when the solar activity is high enough, I think 15 meters also is almost open all like 24 hours. Pretty amazing. It's been a long time since I've seen that, so I think we're in for some good summer of radio listening. That's for sure. UTV and Ham, KD9WNV, nice to have you on board. We have Madeline St. Kitts, nice to have you here from Puerto Rico. Nice to have you here. David's Radio Room, nice to have you on from Central Georgia. We have WF7I Homebrew. Hello there, Bert. Greetings. Nice to have you here from Virginia. And participated in ham radio support with my club for a local race, run, bike, and canoe. That's pretty cool. My HT got its most use in the year. So that's pretty cool. Marvin Mutz, nice to have you on board from the Japan Islands. And going to Hamvention in Ohio next week. Anyone going? By the way, Shoyoung Radios will be at Hamvention. I want to make a video of this. So if you go at Hamvention, go by the booth of Shoyoung Radios. They will be there, and we'll talk about their radio and some interesting info that I got from them directly this week. So to give you guys an idea, when I didn't know up to what point I have a influence on buying radios or not, and I got a pretty good idea this week. So I reviewed the LC90, their smart radio, and the CEO came back to me saying that I was fair and that he's fine with it. And I forgot to say, but in the review, but that this was given to me by Shoyoung Radio. I did not pay for it. They were generous to send me one free. But the CEO of Shoyoung Radio said that since I did my review where I talk about all the flaws on the radio side, that they have 50% less people buying the radio since then. It's the number of people buying the radio went down, which I think impressed him, because he said it is obvious you have a big influence in the radio world. So I thought, yeah, maybe you're going to have some less sales possibly, but I didn't think it would impact them that much. So anyways, we're gonna have we'll have something interesting, because I'm not giving up on that company. I think they want to do things right. And there's a few things we're going to talk about that they're going to have also. So 50% less sales. Pretty crazy, eh? Um, what else do we have? Madeline St. Kitts, small radio, Texan PL330 is something better. PL330, you got a great package you're going to love. George, by the way, does NOAA change frequency for HF or weather facts? I was having so much fun decoding them, but I had to stop for almost a month. Really wanted to keep decoding and send my reports. Their schedule is a fixed schedule, and the frequencies too. It could be that the days you were trying, either propagation wasn't there or propagation has shifted, and you might need to change when you listen. But their frequencies and times usually doesn't change. It's always the same year after year. What else do we have? Official homebrew channel. So that that could be kind of cool. Catalin says 100 likes missing. Gregory Essenberg just bought a Malahi DSP2. I bought a 10 49.1 wave transformer and 10 antenna wire from Soto Beams. Can I tape that wire to my ceiling for good results? Gregory, it's better if you could do it outside, but if it's the way you can do it, it depends how much noise you have inside your home. If it's not too noisy, it's going to work fine. I did that in the 80s with my radios. I would tape the wire into the ceiling of the apartment where I was, but that was in the 80s when noise was very low. Today, it might be too noisy to have it inside your home, and you might need to have it outside. But try it. It's the best way to know. Sheila, nice to have you here from Belleville, Ontario. VE5 SAR says, my Kiwi SDR is hearing a ton on 17-meter contacts on FT8. George says, wow, I thought that solar wind had an impact on HF last night. I couldn't find something on shortwave, just a Canadian time station. So solar activity has an enormous impact on radio propagation. Like last night. Yeah, last night I tried Radio New Zealand, which was not there most of the time, and there was a huge solar flare, which kind of wiped out anything that was on the Pacific side of radio. Trevor, nice to have you here. D. Matthews, nice to have you on board from Northwest England. Dave, M7MVD. We have Emerson Luis Bertoni. Nice to have you here from Brazil. Maddie K2 says, did you say hi to me? I think I missed it. Yeah, I did. A little earlier, but nice to have you on board. And yeah, things are pretty good here in Montreal. Nothing to complain about. This summer-like weather is starting to appear. So it's kind of a cool time now. It was too last minute for me to set up, but I almost felt like doing the live show outside today. I was thinking that next month I'm going to do a few tests. I might be doing a live show from a park or something instead of home. I just need to set up right for it to work. I think that could be kind of cool. Jim Gordon says, been testing my Sony 2001D recently, modified by Graham Stevens from a kit of components by Adel Sayed. The audio quality and sensitivity, particularly on the lower frequencies, is much improved. Cool. Nice big radio. George, the PL330 was my first modern shortwave receiver, and it's great. definitely great. So it's really is cool. Alabama Red 256. Nice to have you here. Sweat Cats, nice to have you on board. And well, you're the only one that buffers because it doesn't buffer for anybody else. Sweat Cuts, you have a problem with your own devices. Alabama Red just bought a PL990X. Can't wait to get it. Cool. Andy New, nice to have you on board from Bristol, UK. M7CON. David P. Miller, do you have any comments on other Wi-Fi world band rigs? How about Sea Crane model? Amazon has a Notion portable rig under $100 now. Well, the thing is all the Wi-Fi receivers are mostly only Wi-Fi, and there could be an indication why with what's happening now. It's very noisy. I've never, there's different models out there. I've always preferred the Sangeans because they always have a tremendous amount of beautiful audio coming out of it. I got that WFR32, which works great. That said, and a lot of people have said it, the need for a Wi-Fi radio is really because you want one. Because honestly, you do it all and you get all these streams from your smartphone if you want to. And, you could put earbuds on or just, whatever, but it's really purely because you want something with a box that does it. Because it's really not necessary, honestly, to have a Wi-Fi internet radio. WF7I Ombru says it is very awful to see a radio company interested in direct feedback from users for sure. If they kept that up, we could get really amazing radios. And indeed. Yeah, well, we're going to talk about it, Alabama Red, in a few minutes. There's a new model on the works, and there's something interesting with that. So John Beckham says, my favorite radio is still the Seawood on D808. Great radio, too. Absolutely. Trevor, you still recommend using a pre-selector with a ML830. Also, where does a pre-selector go? Well, on an ML830, you don't need a pre-selector. Really. Honestly. Because you can't put one. If you put the pre-selector, you will cut off the power to the ML830 because it's powered. So a pre-selector would be between the antenna and the radio anyways. And the other thing is I don't see the need for a pre-selector, honestly. What the pre-selector will do, okay, a pre-selector, if the radio overloads everywhere, what the positive point of a pre-selector is that it could kind of, because it will render around the frequencies around it kind of deaf, it might prevent some overloading. But honestly, you don't need that really. And if you're using an SDR, pre-selector is useless because you'll be blocking frequencies that you want to see on the waterfall display. Have you considered building an MLE 30 into Yagi? I thought it might be a good idea. Yeah, I don't know how we would be doing that actually. Marvin Motts, have a booth at Hamvention. Visit me at Photon Radio. I sell circuit boards for radio and have invented a faster non-resonant radio for the shortwave bands. Cool. King of the Xer says thunderstorms here now. Time to disconnect the antennas. Yes. Oh, no problem. No problem, Matt. But always nice to see you on board. Did we ever make a 6-meter contact, Matt? Do you remember? I wanted to check my log. Or you weren't set up for it or something? Because we made all the bands from 80 to 10. And I think the only 2 bands missing were 160 and maybe 6 meters, right? I'm not sure. Or did we ever do a 6 meter? I don't remember. DB Dostrovsky, nice to have you on board from Alberta. Nice to have you here. It's FME skip season brewing this week. I had my first 6 meter contacts on FD8 Wednesday evening, I think. Yeah, Wednesday evening or Thursday evening. Thursday evening. Had one contact with South Carolina, another one with Georgia. 6 meter opening was like 02:30 UTC. Was late in the evening. So Matt's been trying to scope out possible de-expedition for shortwave listening, not ham, locations around town, and disappointed that even in the middle of big parks, there's a lot of RFI to deal with. Wow, that's interesting. Because here, as soon as I move, like the park that I have not far from here, I'm just in the mid, like not even in the middle of it, and the noise is like super low. So it's kind of interesting that you have noise even in a big park. That's an interesting one. There must be something with their lighting or the power that they use or something. It's kind of interesting. Kind of interesting. Madeline says, needs better antenna for my little fellow. Antenna is everything. Andy knew the DSP2 has brilliant noise reduction and works great indoors with an 8-inch active indoor loop. Yeah, it has some interesting features. The noise reduction is definitely nice. Jim Gordon, do I imagine it, or is there a particularly large geographic spread of viewers this evening? Who said internet interest in shortwave is dying? Yeah, there is people from everywhere, definitely. I mean, we have every time we do a live show, people from pretty much all around the world. A lot of Europeans, people from the US, Canada, some people from, like tonight we have Australia, Japan Islands. We have Puerto Rico, and we have Brazil, so, and South Africa, and all of that, Australia. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. What else do we have? Those have 7 Obru. Seen a couple of buffering episodes on today's show. Most of the stream has been fine. Okay. What else do we have? Fishkopf says, you don't need one, but during a zombie apocalypse could be come in handy. What else do we have? So you had buffering too, Jay? Drop down to 480. Here, the stream quality, because I have a stream quality indicator here on the screen, which says it's fine. So I don't know. Sometimes it's YouTube. You know, YouTube from time to time will do this. We'll have kind of a weird, so I said the path that of where the stream goes has a problem or something. John Beckham says, the one thing about shortwave radio is it like a box of chocolates in which you will never know what you will pick up receiving. So yeah, we need to get a 6 meter. Okay. We'll have to check that out. What else do we have? Syntax error is on 27 megahertz, 11 meters. Cool. Ari Lyle says, so what's the main difference between the Malachi DSP1 versus 2? I've seen so many different versions. They kind of upgrade or make the circuit board a little better for reception and receive. So, you know, one version, a new version sometimes overloads less or has less issues with certain things. But I couldn't tell you the details personally of, you know, what would be the difference between them though. King in the Xter, my dad, W9JEF, got into 6 meter in June 2021 after 67 years in ham radio. owing to the FM broadcast DX reports. He would hear beacons in the same area or near as the stations I receive. Cool. Benjamin Sebastian, nice to have you here. My Realistic DX440 is my favorite radio. I know it's old, but works amazing. And that's the only thing that's important, honestly. Matt says, it occurred to me that I might be encountering atmospheric noise. That is something that increases during periods of increased solar activity. After all, I have to revisit. Yeah, and if you go there and you do something while the sun is really, really active, there was a video on, I think, of Space Weather showing that there was a tremendous amount of noise sometimes created by the sun in the last couple of weeks, and it was pretty amazing. So, yeah, check that out. Because I am amazed that in the middle of a park, you would still get such noise, honestly. Really, really amazing. I mean, there are parks that are noisier. I'll give you an example. The park, so here I'm surrounded by the park that I go to, which is not very far. There's another one a little further away, where I went to when I went to primary school, and it's a pretty big park too. But for some reason, that one is noisier than the one I go to. And what explanation do I have? I don't really have, except the fact that there's a school on on the border of the park on one end. But still, I go to the park on the opposite end, and it's noisy. It's noisier. And the only thing I could figure out that could be noisy is there's the big bright spots for the baseball field. And I've been wondering if maybe those are the problem. Here, the park that I go to does have two baseball fields. It has a lot of big spots for the baseball fields at night to for the lighting, and yet it's quiet on that one. So I don't know, but definitely there are parks that could be noisier than others, though. Alabama Red says, I've used the original XH Data D808 I got eBay from UK. I was very impressed by performance on all bands, including Airband, which I can pick up Atlanta Center from my home in Alabama. Cool. It is a great little radio. D808 is amazing radio. Trevor not having issues with buffering. If other users are having issues, they could try changing video quality. Yeah, it could be. Sometimes it could be specific places. There could be parts of a certain area, like geographic area, where buffering happens for some reason, and not on others. So Syntax Error says stream is fine. RY491, we lost another AM station here in the UK. Hardly anything left now. Shame for us vintage radio collectors. Yeah, I have a lot of I need to get them out one day. I have a lot of All American 5 tube receivers, which are, just medium wave, just AM only, and AM radio band. And I'm thinking, better have them used while the AM band in North America is still healthy. We're losing stations too. I mean, here in Canada, there are great parts of many provinces that just don't have any more medium wave stations left. And slowly, here in Montreal, might as well say it's dead, because there's a lot of stations. There's nothing interesting. So it's like a big waste here in Montreal. What's happening on the medium wave band? What else do we have? Jay, has anyone checked out the Ratty RF 919 SSB shortwave radio? Is it any good? I've seen a lot of people that are using it. I would have to have my own. I always, I take note of what people say, but I always prefer my own reviews because I know what to check out. But I'll say what I always say is, even if I review something and my review is not that great, the important thing is that you like the radio. Don't come, you know, telling me that, well, I don't know, it's a great radio, blah blah blah. It's like you love it, you love it. Okay, that's all right. Jim Gordon, yeah, my Yaesu. That's the Yaesu FTDX10 here. That's tuned to 15580. It is Voice of America from Botswana right now, coming in with a decent signal in Montreal. Tasso V had a sprinkle. Okay. All's Paul the Cat. Pretty good. He was actually on the. I have my phone here. Went to eat some breakfast on the front balcony today, and as I arrived to eat the breakfast, uh, he had decided to go on the table right next to the plates of our little breakfast we had today. So that's his. John Beckham says we shouldn't let quality AM reception lead the air bands. Well, that's for sure. RJ Dakota, just like here in St. Louis area, medium wave isn't dead yet, but it is on live support. There are few interesting stations. Yeah. John, Tampa, Florida. Nice to have you here. Jim Gordon, there are still many Spanish medium wave audible here in the UK. Plugger Die says has a RF 919. We'll probably have a review coming. Yeah. Got a big problem with his reviews that are not much of reviews in general, but oh well. How old is Paul? It's hard to say because when I got him, it's a cat that was found that was lost. So we don't know at what age he had back then. And so I estimate, because he was relatively young, so I estimate that he must be somewhere around 11 years old. It's going to be 9 years since he came here in June next month. Is 9 years since the first time I saw Paul come up here. And he probably had at least 2 years, I would estimate, back then. So I put him at 11 years. And I asked the vet, and the vet just took my number as if it's like, yeah, I don't know. He looked at the cat and it's like, yeah, you have no idea. So usually they look at the teeth and stuff like that, but I have the impression he doesn't know either. So I'm estimating he's about 11 years old. Joey Watterson says Paul was simply saying, "Nice breakfast. Where's my plate?" He loves, the biggest problem, he likes bacon. The problem is I can't give him bacon because every time he eats even a little chunk of bacon, he throws up. So I can't. So nothing like listening to a radio, having a cat like Paul, and a nice cold drink on a summer day. Yep, that happens very often, actually. He likes to, especially when I go out in the backyard and bring a radio, and like I bring my tablet, bring a radio, sit down. He just loves just hanging around with me, and he's like a happy guy. So oh yeah, he's a great cat. He's a really beautiful and good looking cat, definitely. Yeah, when the sun shines, absolutely. In the sunshine, it's just amazing. The picture on the Facebook group, everybody's like, wow, he is so beautiful. Artist Alley Crafter's Kitchen says, all American fives are fun, incredibly sensitive. Just have to be careful when touching them, not when running hot chassis. Yeah, the ones I have is not bad because the way they're built, there's no metal part that I can touch and touch something else. Because the biggest problem with that also is the fact that we technically have polarized plugs. So depending on what side you put the plug, there's one way that it's going to be safe, and there's one way that it's going to be a hot chassis, and I'm going to just electrocute myself. I try not touching anything when I play with them because they are the American fives are dreadfully dangerous. It's just so incredible how they just really didn't think much about security back in the day, honestly. King and the Xer, Tom Tom's orange cat, 10 years old, cool. Dave Shaw says Charlotte, his cat loves bacon and no tummy upset. Tibor Ostrowski says Paul's cardiologist wouldn't want him to eat bacon. I'm sure. Marvin Mott says my new non-resident radio system gets 1 megabits per second data transfer and can revitalize AM band by providing internet-like transmissions of weather traffic info, but it requires new hardware. What else do we have? Jim Gordon, interesting DX tip. KTWR Guam and 15400 at 12:45 UT in English. Log them at fair strength here in Scotland. Wow, that's a good catch. Blogger, I have a hard time justifying a new radio over 200, given that I already have. That's for the showing LC90 or the Ratty RF. I kind of have a hard time too, especially if it doesn't bring a lot more than other radios. Um, the showing LC90, I can understand the price tag because it has added circuitry. It's a smart radio, so you got to have all of what the standard radio has, but you have added a smart radio to it, plus all sorts of gizmos that, like particularly one that others don't have, which is it actually can connect to a cell service because it accepts SIM cards. So that's all added technology that adds up in a price. Honestly, personally, if the LC90 would do everything right, I don't consider the price tag to be a high price. 249 for a smart radio, AM, FM, shortwave, longwave with SSB, plus capable of with Bluetooth and capable of also it connects with Wi-Fi, and it has a SIM card where it connects to a service if you want to have a dedicated service for it. So all that together, I don't find $249 that they're selling it for a high price, because it has a lot of technology in it, and it sounds good and it looks good. The screen is beautiful, things like that. I think if it did it right, it was okay. Where the price tag, like a lot of said, the price tag isn't worth it is because it doesn't do a lot right. And that's the problem. Royal de la Torre. Hello, brother. What do you think of the new XH data? Which one? Because they're always having new radios on XH data. XH data, there are some good radios, but you also got to be careful. There are some crappy radios out of XH data. You got to be careful which model you buy, honestly. RJ Dakota, Paul is a big, beautiful cat. My little Oscar is 20 years old. Sometimes I can carry her around outside because she's so old. She's usually an indoor cat. She has some problems getting around. Yeah, when they get they get older. Paul the cat is he's Paul the cat's fat. Of course, he's too big. I should never have left him eating so much and go that fat. But he's still in good shape and he still can get on the bed by his own. But now he's got this little thing where he prefers that I pick him up and putting up on the bed rather than him doing it on his own. But he can do it on his own if I'm not around. And I attribute that it's more of I enjoy when my owner picks me up and puts me on the bed rather than doing it alone. Dave the Enlightener. Jill, I accidentally stumbled upon a contest on 2-meter band here in Central Europe. I discovered on my SDR. Is there any conventional radio that let me receive 144 megahertz USB? They were all in USB. There are a few high-end receivers that do it. They are in general a lot more expensive, but you'll have to find something like an ICOM ICR 30 is an example. I got mine right here. Show you guys. I haven't taken it off charge in such a long time, and I really should make some videos of it. And so here we go. So something like this will work. So this is a ICOM ICR 30. This will go to USB, LSB, USB, single sideband on all frequency ranges. There's a few models. You'd have to check out what's available. The R30 is expensive. Honestly, if you want to have single sideband there, I would simply buy an SDR. They're not expensive, and even an RTL SDR V3 or V4 now is not expensive and does it. So I'm kind of have a hard time, especially since in single sideband you won't hear that much. It's going to be mostly either hams or even satellites. For example, you can hear there's a few Chinese satellites that have, and a few American satellites too, that have single sideband on amateur radio band, but it's mostly just amateur radio mostly that you'll have that, and there's not that much activity. Honestly, I consider single sideband on the VHF UHF range more of a novelty than something you absolutely need. For the rest, of course, radios like the ICOM, now there's the ICOM ICR 8600, which is super expensive. Things like that. I find that they're too expensive just to get single sideband on VHF UHF. You're better off with your SDR. There's Ali Crafter's Kitchen. Ali Crafter's S38 is maybe the most notorious all-American 5 variation isolation transformer. So pretty cool. John Becken, for $10, I think the XH Data D219 is pretty good DXer outside of FM bleed over. Yeah, depending on where you are, it's okay. Here I have a hard time. Here it overloads on everything. Even the AM band makes AM stations bleed over everywhere. But depending on where you are, it could definitely be okay. Mike WX50, nice to have you on board from Northwest Arkansas. TBS Rusky, any recommendations for a base and or mobile transceiver for 30 meters and above? Personally, not really. And 30 megahertz, okay, 30 megahertz and above. Not really, because I don't have right now. I'm not looking into that. But if I would like to add 30 megahertz and up capability for transceiver, I don't know. Maybe some of you could help. Like I already have a cool internet radio, already a SIM card. It's called a phone. Yeah, definitely. That does it. It's it's more an evolve of just wanting something else that does it. For sure. Vaults. After buying the DX10 and in general checking prices on gear, I am getting more and more used to insane prices. Oh yeah, this is this is crazy. Definitely. And I mean, even when I got to the FTDX10, I will say, you think about it. It's a lot of money for a radio, and the reason there's multiple reasons why I chose it. I could have gone with like what everybody was telling me. Go with the ICOM 7300. You'll save money. But I didn't want an ICOM. I was really kind of focusing. I don't want an ICOM. Because I had the ICOM ICR 8500 as a receiver and all of that. I wanted to have something else. I never owned a Yisu, and there's a lot of things that went together. It's the fact that it was rated really highly. It's like one of the best out there. I juggled also with the idea from a friend of mine that told me, "Look, why are you spending so much money on something that's basically an HF rig up to 6 meters only, when you could buy something that is HF, VHF, UHF all in one package?" And I didn't want that because I know for a fact that almost every radio, although they are good, almost every radio that has a wide range is not as good as having a specific HF rig and a specific 30 megahertz and above rig. They will perform better each than if you have one together, unless you're paying a very high price for it. So there's so many things that went through my mind, and of course, there's the idea that you don't buy a radio like that every year. My idea was, look, put the price on it, because you will not be buying another one in a long time. It's going to be your main transceiver for a long time. So, all of that together went like, yeah, okay, let's go for it. And here in Canada, the problem with the prices is that our dollar is weak. So, $1 costs $1.37, which is good for YouTube because YouTube generates US money. So when I get the YouTube money, there's an advantage to it. But when you buy stuff, everything is, kind of comes from a US price. So you go to the radio store here in Canada, well, Yaesu sells it here at the same price in US dollars. It's just that makes it much more expensive. So it's rated at was more than $2,000 here, which was a lot of money. Take care, George. Always nice to have you on board. Stay safe. What I'm drinking a lemonade. It's lemonade. Jim Gordon. Anyone encountered the Quodosense SR286? This is one that uses a car radio chip and has had some great reviews. Yeah, it seems to be a good radio from what I've seen. I have a hard time getting one, and the only one that I would get is way too expensive for me to buy that. I'm not dishing. The cheapest price Canadian that I can get it is like $195. I ain't paying $195 for a radio that does not have single sideband. I'm just going to tell you that. I will not be dishing out $200 for a radio doesn't have single sideband. It's not worth it. Even if everybody says it's great, nope, not great enough for me. But I have single sideband. But all I hear of everybody that has one is that they love it. So apparently it's good. And that's it. What else do we have? William, if you have a separate transmitter, SWR meter, antenna tuner, antenna, what order do they go together? Well, usually you have the transmitter, then you put the antenna tuner, and then the SDR meter, and then the antenna. Which basically the antenna tuner should have an SWR. Well, it depends if it's an automatic one, but if it's a manual one, usually the antenna tuner will have a manual one. But usually you'll have something like the transmitter, and then you'll have the SWR meter, then the antenna tuner, and then the antenna. And usually all of that together should work. But that's a lot of stuff separately. John, Tampa, Florida. So true about SSB. If it wasn't for the utility stations and some miscellaneous signals, the XH data D808 is good enough for me, my opinion. Yeah. Like where I live, I have no problems with medium wave bleed. I don't even get medium wave on the medium wave band very much. Yeah, here it's a major issue here. And, it's also the fact that I live in a tough radio environment. My reviews reflect an environment that's very, very unforgiving for radios. So, the great example is a lot of people didn't like my review of the ICOM SCR30 because it has one major issue here in Montreal. It's deaf. Why? Because it's overloaded by everything. And you have to start playing with the RF gain or the attenuations and stuff like that. And everybody's like, well, there's RF gain. Yeah, RF gain should be for the extreme cases of problems, not to be used every day because the freaking receiver is bad. It can't cope with it. And that's the problem with the ICOM CR30 for $1,000 radio. I'm sorry, this should never have come out like this. And the thing is, my environment is like that. And somebody came out and says, I don't have that problem. Yeah, but that person that came out lives in the middle of nowhere. There's no, there's like the closest radio station is dozens of miles away. There's no VHF, UHF blowtorch signals to make it deaf. So you know what? In the middle of nowhere, yeah, it's probably super sensitive and works well. But in the middle of a big city, this thing, I don't use it much, honestly, because my Radio Shack scanner, the Pro 43, receives better for a simple reason. Out of the box, it doesn't overload. This does. Simple. But it's an amazing package. They put a lot of stuff in here and everything. But if you live in a big city, that thing, you're going to miss out on tons of signals and you don't even know about it. And that's the other thing that, I always say is you need to test it really well. You need to know at least a couple of dozen signals that you are capable of getting on a scanner radio. Then compare these dozens of signals on the different ranges, not just one, like VHF, UHF, and so on, and test them out now on the ICOM ICR30. I want to bet that half of them will not be there if you live in a city. Why? Because you'll have to just attenuate until suddenly the receiver becomes a little more sensitive. But attenuating also means that you are rendering it less sensitive at the same time. So, Mike, yes, it was more fun to say than ICOM. one of the main things was I've never owned a Yaesu, and I thought, well, it's time to make a choice in another brand that, I'm not brand loyal personally at all, which is not the case of most hams. I've said it before. A lot of hams are brand loyal. They're ICOM forever. They're Kenwood forever. They're Yaesu forever. I don't have that loyalty. I will take what looks cool, what sounds cool, what looks to work great, and that has great reviews. And whatever brand it is. So if it's a Fishongqi and it's a top of the line and it just looks cool, everybody likes it, I'll have a Fishongqi. So don't look for that brand anywhere, I don't think is. Joe Tyson, you make the correct choice. Hug911 says, any tone at I like the ball tri-band unlock. You can do 3 ham bands, DMRs. If you need DMR, get the Redvis RT90. That's also something about the VHF UHF range. Having a transceiver above 30 megahertz. If the day comes that I have one and I need one, it will be also, you need to have all of those digital modes, DMR and so on. So that's also something to look at. Random signals. FTDX10 blows the 7300 away. The receiver is great. I own one and operate in a noisy environment, and the filtering in the radio helps a lot with that. Joe Dyson, buy once, cry once. Yeah, I'm sure all of you had that little moment where you purchased a radio, you click the buy button, and it's been charged to your credit card. And after 5 minutes, you're like, did I do it right? Should have I purchased this? You're almost kind of for a moment regret, because now it's like, I got that 2000 thing that just got charged on my credit card. It's like, yeah, okay. Let me think about it for a second. Random signals. Even the FT710 is a better radio over the 7300. Joe Tyson says 7300 front end leaves something to be desired. And I know a lot of people like the 7300, but I want something, if you buy once anyways, honestly, you buy once, you're not going to buy another one for ages. Better get, even if it's expensive, better get the one that gets some of the highest notes, the best ratings, KK4TXB TV, thank you so much for the donation and the nice comment. And make sure that I have in some way your email. You can send it to official shortwave radio at gmail.com, because anybody that donates is invited to the Zoom meetings. The next one will be somewhere in probably second weekend of June. So you'll be able to join and have fun with us via Zoom. Patriot American, I'll just keep using my 1984 Kenwood R600. If it works great, I'm sure it's perfect. You don't have to. One of the things that I get asked all the time, I've got an 80s radio that I like. I got, like somebody earlier had the DX440. And the question always is like, should I buy a new radio? And it's like, no, if your radio works fine, no, you don't need to buy a new radio. Absolutely not. I would even say, unless you like radios and want to buy another radio, if you've got something that works, that is fairly decent, in today's world of shortwave, it's fine. It does the job. Why get a new radio? Crazy people like me buy radios all the time, but you don't have to. You don't have to become crazy like me. King and the Extra, my dad has an Icon IC 706 and a IC 7300. John, Tampa, Florida. Yeah, okay. J Projects, nice to have you here from San Diego, California. Pretty cool. Patriot American, current transceivers, FTDX 3000, FTDX 1200, and 818. WF7i Homebrew, agree, Gel. No SSB for 200 wouldn't work for me either. Not into 2024. Yeah. The lowest priced radio that you can still get, Metalunar, that has SSB and does not mute, I believe, is the Texan PL 680. And that will be the lowest price. It's a true PLL analog radio with the frequency display, of course. And it does not use that DSP chip. It's the last, it's pretty much the last radio Texan made that is not based on that DSP chip. So that would be probably today the lowest priced SSB capable receiver that does not mute. I can't think of anything else that would go at that price. Then you go into higher price, and then you'll get the Texan PL 990, 880, H501, the Sangian ATS 909 X2, things like that. User 2718 newbie question: will Canada ever approve GMRS repeaters? Probably not, for the simple reason that here in Canada, GMRS is not licensed, like in the United States. So it's pretty much, free to use like a CB radio. So for that reason, there won't be there's no repeaters allowed here. Probably if it would be a paid, you had to have a license for use it, maybe they would approve it, but not. I don't think they'll ever do that here. William, does an isolator make an old radio safe to touch? I have some old Alicrafters. You can use isolation transformers that will isolate you from the mains power of the house. That will prevent you from getting a electric shock. The best that I would say for these radios is to just make sure that anything metal that's outside or around the radio, like the frame, in some way be inaccessible, that you couldn't touch it. One of the biggest problems is some of the radios that were made back then have metal parts that you can actually touch with your hand. The problem is it's simple. If you don't touch anything else and you just touch a metal part on a hot chassis, nothing's going to happen. You have to complete the circuit. So you would have to touch something else, metal, then and then touch the frame. The other thing that you could do, and that would require you to change the plug, is that the chassis is not always hot on an old radio. It depends on how you plugged it and the wall socket. In North America, our wall sockets are polarized. That's why there's one pin that is slightly longer than the other. There's a smaller one. If you put a correct polarized plug in the correct way, your radio is not dangerous. The chassis will be at ground level. It's not going to be hot. You want to electrocute yourself. And that would be probably the simplest thing that you can do. Put a polarized plug so that you can't plug it in the other way. There's only one way that goes in. If you do that, then your radio's chassis will not be hot. It will be on, I think it's on what we call the neutral side. So that's one way and a very easy way. But it also demands that you change the plug, which in some cases people don't want because it changes the value of the radio because it's not all original everywhere. Yeah, like Blogger Die says, Texan PL 680. Patriot American, correct. Most hams I know are brand specific. Very true. Yep. Yep. I'm not. I don't care. But there's a reason also for being brand specific, and I get it. The reason for being brand specific also goes with the fact that every radio often has a way of the panel, the way that it's designed, that is very similar. So you're kind of used to how it works. Maker Rumen says, I would be pissed also, Brad. Thanks for taking the hit on the radio to share with us gold content. Thank you. John says, I noticed recently there's a lot of ICOM ICR30s for sale used on eBay. Wonder what's up with that. You know what? First of all, it's a discontinued radio. It was discontinued, and let me just go back here. I lost my spot. Okay, so the ICOM ICR30 is discontinued, and although it has different modes that you can use, digital modes, and D-Star capability, I think a lot of people find that some of the most popular modes are not in it, so you're out of luck on some things. And I think that I don't know, people find that finally it's, maybe they bought this for a reason, and it's like, well, it's not really much that better than a standard scanner radio. So I don't know. People find, I guess, I don't know. It's hard to explain, but probably a lot of people just like, well, no, that doesn't do what I want. It could also be, some people, especially if the people that bought it live in the city, could just be that's like, oh wow, this thing doesn't receive well, and Arthur Croucher's Kitchen says there's tons of brand loyalty in amateur radio, less so in shortwave, at least based on 40, 50 years in this hobby. Yeah, I would guess. Still, even in the shortwave, sometimes there would be probably brand loyalty to some of the brands. I'm pretty sure when all of the brands were official brands made at home, like Grundig made in Germany and Sony made in Japan. I would guess there could be some brand loyalty to some of these shortwave receivers. For example, I wanted a Sony, and I will only buy a Sony. Like people tell me, oh, your brand is Texan. It's not. I only talk about it because they're good. But if it's crappy, it's crappy, be it a Texan or not. A great example is that big brick that I don't use almost, which is the you can't see it here. That radio here, the Ethon receiver here, the 750. It's a crappy radio. I'm sorry, but for the price and all of its flaws, that thing is crappy. And it's a Texan radio. So it's like, I do not have a brand loyalty. And especially here on the channel, I have to be very, very fair because people will buy it based on what I say. And if I say this is good and it's not, I don't think you people are going to be happy, and you would probably not be here anyway today. Patriotic American, the Alinco DX70T. I almost purchased an Alinco scanner in the 90s at one point. This close to coming to it. Mike WX50 says our local Radio Shack has announced it's closing after being in business since 70. Wow. A bird just flew through right in my window. Ouch. That sounded painful. I bought my first shortwave radio there in 79. Sad to see it go. You know, here our Radio Shacks all changed to Circuit City thing. And then, what is it now? The Source. The last one, you know, even though it was the Source today, and even though it has pretty much nothing to do with what Radio Shack was, it still had the looks and feel, kind of. And it shut down about a month ago. And that was where I purchased so many things, you know, electronic kits. I purchased my first shortwave radio, which was the Realistic DX100. Purchased a couple of other radios afterwards, the DX398, some scanner radios. It's really kind of you know, weird, because it's like, well, that's where for 40 years, you know, I bought so many things there. I bought my first stuff there probably like in 1980, 81-ish. Closed a month ago. Last time I purchased something there was probably 2015, 16, 17. There was still a few interesting things. It was still a hybrid Radio Shack, the Source. And so, you know, I mean, for 30 years, 40 years almost, it's kind of weird that it's gone. It's, you know, lots of souvenirs that go with the store itself. Things you purchase, things you've seen, hanging there, you know, hanging in the store for an hour, looking at all this stuff that you would like to buy if only you had money. I mean, you know. Trustin with the PL660. Well, 660, I think you can't have it brand new anymore. 680 would be the other one. Is it a good upgrade from the PL600? It's what it will fix in one of the flaws of the PL600. It will fix the harsh audio of the PL600, which is kind of not the best. You know, it kind of sounds harsh. In terms of sensitivity, I don't think you're going to gain from a 6 to 680, personally. John Beckham, how is your pretty and colorful display shortwave doing? I forgot the brand and model. The pretty, colorful, which one would you talk about? Are you talking about the ATS-20? The little ATS-20 with a color display? If that's what you're talking about, I haven't used it in a while. I need to get it out. RY for 91 Texan S2000 doesn't mute, not perfect, but a good all-arounder, but a bit pricey, but I love mine. The important thing is that you love yours, but I would not recommend that radio to anybody. Anybody. It's way too expensive for what it is. Laggard Eye PL660 is a classic, 13 years old, and is. My only complaint is that the ATS picks up noise and fills up the memory long before completing the scan. Yeah, I got the 600, the 680. Those two are 10 years old, more than 10 years old here. And I mean, they keep on going. I'm not crazy. Thank you so much, Patriot American. Ricardo, nice to have you on board from Portugal. No problem. Happy to answer the questions. Danny Shortwave Radio DX, nice to have you on board. Jean Arras, GMRS may need a license in the US, but they are allowed more powerful radios than we are here. Oh, yeah, definitely. In the US, you're allowed like 50 watts. Here, it's just the standard 5 watts of, little radios. It's a different thing. It's really a much different thing in Canada and the United States. The reason to buy the Code Ascend SR286 is not for shortwave where it's nothing exceptional. It's for long wave, medium wave where it blows everything else with an external antenna. So that could be, could be interesting. Something interesting to look for. What I should do is go to Code Ascend or whoever builds it and say, hey, send me one free. Maybe they would do it. Patriot American, other portable shortwave radios I use, Sony SW7600G and Grundig Satellite 800. User says where I live, it's 1920s wiring with no third prong. Yeah, but you still could put, like, I don't know if your plates, if your wall plugs and the plates are more modern but if you don't have that third prong, you probably don't have the polarized plug. So yeah, you could still put it in whatever way. Because here it was built in 1950. So here technically the house, like the neighbor next to me here, I saw is wall sockets a couple of weeks ago because he had a problem. He had 100 volts in his shower. I'm not joking. He took electric shock in the shower, and I'm taking care of the building for the next couple of weeks. And so if something is wrong, I'm the one that has to call the plumbers and everything. So I go to his place, and I'm not joking, guys. I put my multimeter in the drain and touched the shower head, and my multimeter read 102 volts. So it's like, youch, no wonder you took electric shock. So I got the electrician over, and while he was doing stuff, I noticed that all the wall sockets on that side are all the old ones that have no third, So it's like, well, but here they're all modern plugs with the third one, except I know that none of them have the ground working. There's no grounds in any of the wall outlets here. The only one that has a ground in the whole house is the one on my stove, because that one has a modern plug for the stove. And I actually even I told the electrician, I said, I have ham radio stuff. If I want to ground to something, am I right in thinking that I can ground on the electrical heating? And he said, yes, because that is more modern and does have the frame of the electrical heating is grounded. So I said, okay, so I could plug there and know that I'm grounded in some way. And he said, yeah, okay. But that showed me. But even here, I got to be careful because I don't know who put the new plugs in. Obviously not an electrician. And I learned the hard way. In the kitchen, I put a lighting system over my sink because there was no light, and I wanted to have a light right over his sink. The lighting system that I put in had a metal aluminum frame. So I didn't think about it. I plugged it in. It works fine. It was great. It stayed there for 6 months before I did what I never had done before: touch the metal sink and touch the lighting system to turn it on. And I got zapped real good. It was like 3 a.m. I was half asleep. And I learned, youch, this isn't right. And that's where I learned. I took out the plate and I looked at the wires, and they weren't connected correctly. So I shut down the power. I changed the wiring so that it reflects the polarized plug. And then it fixed the problem. No more electric shocks. But I that made me look at all the electric plates and all the electric plugs here. They were all wired backwards. So I changed it on everything to make sure that if I ever have, for some reason, a device that I touch, especially, those old radios, and I touch something else, I will not die electrocuted somehow. Take care, RY491. Always nice to have you here. What else do we have? So, So let me try to go down as fast as possible, catch up a little bit. Okay. Okay, let's go down. Craig Martinetti, nice to have you on board from Oxford County, Ontario, Canada. We have Kev Michael, nice to have you on board. Says I just got 2KY on 1017 kilohertz Sydney, Australia, on the Sony ICF 38 at 10 p.m. Cool. User 2718, Joel, Montreal joke. Did you ever buy in a distant surprise box? Little they contain dismantled TV parts. I never bought. I didn't even know they had surprise boxes at Addison. They used to have. I like the Addison when they used to have all of these circuit boards from whatever device and buy them, because they would sell them just for the chips. Sometimes I'd play with them and have stuff working. I did buy a couple of surprise boxes at Radio Shack. They had those too, which were kind of surplus parts that were left behind from their repair center. Arturo, best years for actual radios at Radio Shack was early 70s. Well, up to I would go for the radios side of things up to here at the Radio Shack here, radio wise, it was fun up to, I'd say, the late 90s, up to the late 90s. Then it started fading out. Archer's Auto Crafters, there was some brand loyalty between the ICOM R71A and Kenwood R5000. Yep. So the Quota Sensis R286 would be good for anybody that's a serious medium wave, long wave DXer. That would say. God, that's interesting. Yeah, R71A. I never understood that R71A design. That if the battery died, your radio becomes a brick, because it would erase all the firmware. It's like weird. KWN61, nice to have you here from Tucson, Arizona. Blogger Guy says, glad never bought a Texas S750. Lurking for Silver, nice to have you on board from Rhode Island. Arturo says, funny about Circuit City, hasn't been in USA since 2006. Yeah, because yours went bankrupt when they got here in Canada, and I believe it's part of the reason when Circuit City got here in Canada and purchased Radio Shack. The financial strain that it gave them actually made the U.S. part go bankrupt. RJ Dakota, I've had that happen several times, especially when you have such large windows. Killed one bird, but has dazed several others at a time. Yeah. Here, it's been a long time. It had not happened, but over the years, this is a pretty big window. And birds coming in the window, I'd say it's at least a dozen times. David in Barcelona, Spain. ¿Cómo está mi amigo? Nice to have you on board. Freshly returned from trying to activate Parks on the Air. Pretty cool. And the QRP 10 watt activation. That's nice. As do we have? Arturo, demise of Radio Shack was a tough thing. I think we all went there for parts, electronics, everything electronic up until the millennium. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Danny Shortwave, Radio Shack DX398 is still a very good radio. I love mine. Mine needs to have its speaker changed, but still works. John Beckham, on the first of the day of each month, all the Battery Club members, yeah, I go get my 9-volt battery. It was the only one that was really useful. And Andrews, the internet options would have eventually closed Radio Shack if they did not go belly up first. Sheila says our local The Source store is being converted to a store called Best Buy Express, which is supposed to be a joint venture between Bell and Best Buy. Okay. Interesting. Paul Richardson, miss working at Radio Shack. Man. Dakota Radio Shack introduced me to the first shortwave radio. The same here. Well, no, not true. This Consumer Distributing, which was a chain in Canada, it was very weird. Introduced me to shortwave, which I didn't know what it was. There was this cryptic SW1, SW2 on the display, which meant something for some people. I had no idea. But it was a multiband radio that had VHF low, VHF high, SW1, 2. That was the first ever radio. For me, that radio was cool. It was like, wow, what can I get on this thing? I still remember the first time I tuned SW1 or 2 or something, and then this guy says, this is London. And I'm like, the ignorant kid that I was at the time. I'm like, London, Ontario, Canada? And of course, it was London. It was a BBC World Service. It was London in the UK. But the first serious shortwave radio, the Audiostic DX100, was from Radio Shack. Still remember going to get it. I had $120 in my pocket, which was the first time I had so much money. I was like, wow, this is so much money. In 1982. And I still remember coming home with a box, taking it all out. The first night that happened, I was blown away. That in my little 13-year-old mind of the day, that I actually was listening to stations from all around the world is something that was just so amazing. I was so impressed. And well, I guess you guys have to thank Radio Shack for me being here, because that's all about it. Or even this consumer distributing, I mean, getting my first multiband radio opened up the new world for me. And that's why I'm here today. And we're still here today. Did I think in 1982 that I'd be doing a live show and talk about this on some streaming thing that the internet. We didn't even talk about internet back then. And that in 2024, which is 42 years later, I'd still be listening to the shortwave bands. I gotta say, I don't think that would have been something in my mind to think about. Yeah, the FRG, that was one that I was curious about. It was less expensive than the big gun desktops of the day, and I remember finding that the Yaesu FRG 100 was an interesting one. Yeah, the ATS 20, John. Yeah, I need to take it out. It is a fun radio. I like playing with it, honestly. It's a fun radio to play with. Just gonna put myself. Wondering if I get LRA 36 and 15476. Don't hear anything right now. Badgered American bought an old Sanjian ATS 803A at a Hamfest recently. Works okay, but needs a little work. I got one of those. It's not the best. Was it the 800? No, it's what was it? Or no, mine was an 800A, I think. Nice to have Craig Martinetti from Ontario. WDX2ROE. John Tempest just ordered a new ATS 25 Max decoder 2 from Banggood. Looking forward to playing around with it. Cool. The ATS 25 is the one that I was talking about. The ATS 20 is the one that's bad. Kev Michael, my Sony ICF 2003 is 45 years old and still great for my go-to shortwave. Cool. Ultra-V, I don't have FRG 7, but I have FRG 7700 that died suddenly. Sold it and bought FRG 100. John Becken, can remember when you had to pay for the CB radio license? Yep. It went away just as I got into CB radio. The year I got into CB radio, they took off the license price. Metaliner says, I haven't found a good use for the synchronous detection feature on my PL330. When would this feature be most helpful? So synchronous detection is to help you with international broadcast stations. It's a feature that removes the AM, the AM carrier, replaces it with a stable carrier within the radio, and then you have the capability of choosing either the upper or lower sideband of an AM mode station. So a lot of people, unfortunately, think that it has to be used in the ham bands and stuff like that. No. Synchronous detection is to be used on broadcast stations. It's not a feature for single sideband. It's for broadcast station. What it does when it works well is that if you have a station that, for example, has a lot of fading or is a little weak, you turn on the sync detection. What that does is the radio will lock on the signal, and then you can choose upper or lower sideband on sync to choose which carrier, because an AM signal has the main carrier and has the upper and the lower sideband in it. So you choose one of the sidebands, and it's because it has its internal signal lock. What it does is it will stabilize the signal. So a fast fading signal or a signal that has a lot of fades in it should be a little more stable and easier to listen to. That's when you use the sync detection. Metaliner. So David, I don't know if you heard the news. Yeah, MFJ. We talked about it in the International Radio Report. So a huge loss for the hobby. Many unique accessories. Yep. Still gonna have a lot of stuff to sell. They'll still do some repairs, but it's the that slowly fading away. C3PO, nice to have you on board. Would a Belka radio be able to receive airband frequencies to listen to? ATC, air traffic control. I don't think Belkas have VHF airband on it. From what I think, they don't. And I will always say the same thing. You're better off with a cheap scanner than buying any shortwave radio with airband to have really good airband. They do it better. You know, it's kind of fun. Now, I see a lot of people say, "Well, it doesn't have airband." It's fun to have it. If you punch in one frequency of an air traffic control, okay, but the scanning part of any shortwave radio on the airband is crappy, slow. And if you want to have fun and listen to different things on the airband, because you have a lot of, like here, you know, we have three airports in not that far of a distance. There's a lot of frequencies. I don't punch in one. There's a lot I want to listen to. So what happens is that I rather have a scanner radio because they scan so fast that I don't miss out on anything. Where on a regular shortwave radio with airband, they're cool for a specific frequency you tune to, not for when you start scanning around. Jim Gordon, if you and Paul were marooned on a desert island, what battery-powered radio would you take with you? Well, I need also a solar panel or something because it's a battery-powered radio will not last long. What would I bring with me if I was absolutely marooned on an island? I'd hope that I have, youch, probably something like the PL990 or radio like that. I don't know. SNGN ATS 909, and there's something that at least has anything that's decent, that has single sideband, and that I can easily, you know, do something with. WF79 Ombru says there are still very few privately owned Radio Shack branded stores in the U.S. There is one here in Virginia. I stop whenever I am in the area. John Beckett, my very first shortwave radio was the vacuum tube Monarch AM1 model. Wow. KW61, the new Ratty RF919 works well on medium wave and shortwave. However, the manual needs a lot of work. Jim Gordon here in Scotland, it is 3-pin plugs at 240. That can be fatal if misused. Yep. Here in North America, we're at 3-pin plugs at 120. It's interesting that, you know, we didn't adopt the same. Tony, nice to have you on board, Tony. Let me try to reach down as fast as possible. We'll go a little faster. What do we have here? There we go. Let me go down. So yes, Tony, from Cork, southeast of Ireland. Thank you for a fair and honest review of the LC90. Clearly a good concept radio, but it seems too complex. It's for its creators. Yeah. Yeah, an outlet tester, definitely. I have one somewhere. I need to dig it out. It's probably, there's a junk box here. I'm pretty sure I have one in the junk box. Okay, Michael got CBC Calgary, Alberta on 1010. Pretty cool. What else do we have? Then shortwave and outlet tester. I used them, found a few in my home were reverse polarized and not grounded. Yeah. I got one somewhere. I need to dish it out. RJ Dakota, in the house, grew up with all electrical outlets and all things electrical are not grounded correctly. I've got a shock when I turn on or off a light switch. Uh, yes, may the Ford be with you all. Oh, wow. Okay. I didn't even know they had them. I would, at 80, 81, I was about 12 years old. It's about the time I started going to Edison for the first time. The Win 1960, nice to have you here from New York. Patriot American. In the past years, I always bought a passport to World Band Radio Tuning, World Radio TV Handbook. I know the passport went away years ago. Any current handbook still in print? World Radio TV Handbook is in print. But honestly, you got so much on the web now. There's no books that I would recommend to anyone. Kamikaze 76. Let's have you here from beautiful West Michigan. What else do we have? And Andrews, a Mint Realistic DX160 was my first radio. Yeah, that was really, really that was really, really the radio for a lot of people, the DX160. Archer's Autocrafter's Kitchen. The R71 internal battery in my radio was original and never died. The internet and social media made it sound like a thinking bomb. I think it's probably mostly for those that have had, like maybe we're tinkering with it or something. Because I know some people that happened, but Jim Gardner, what's Paul's opinion on these birds? Can I eat them? Oh, God. CDN Rock, nice to have you on board, my friend. Where are you located? Yeah, I have the impression that when there's some buffering, it might be YouTube having issues. Here, the stream indication is green, so it should be okay. I'm going to go down a little faster. So if I miss a question, just ask again, guys. I will try to get a little closer to the reality. I'm 15 minutes behind. RJ Dakota, when I first heard stations on my shortwave radio, most people tried to convince me that all of these stations were just local stations. Oh yeah, there was a lot of that. Look, there's still that going on right now. I posted a video. I mean, if there's one guy that you do not tell him where a station comes from, it's probably me. Yes, I might be wrong. Sometimes it happens and I got corrected, but most of the time, 99% of the time, if I tell you that's from Madagascar, it's from Madagascar. Okay. There's a guy that comes and says, well, you're totally wrong. All the stations we hear all come from that station in Florida. Nothing comes from that far away. Yeah, I look, the BBC was from Madagascar. Okay, please don't try to correct me on that. I know that doesn't come from WRMI. And it's like, and he kept on. It was like, look, go believe whatever you want. I don't have patience for that. John Beckham says the Radio Shack house brand Realistic was above average. Line of stereo receivers, turntables, and nice wooden speakers. Everything Realistic was in general very good, honestly. When it became crappy at Radio Shack is when they started those new branding like Next Tech. That was like, yeah, okay, that's a crappy stuff. But most realistic stuff was of pretty good quality in general. Patriot American simple experience with me with all these broadcast stations from all around the world. You could buy resistors, capacitors at Radio Shack, believe it or not. Yes, you could. They had resistors, capacitors, and all sorts of things. They were branded Archer. They also had that, and there was a lot of test and technical equipment, and like antennas. Archer was a brand at Radio Shack, and at the source here, the wall where all the resistors, capacitors, and all of that stayed with those until about 2018. And the first thing I thought was, okay, they must have brand new 25-year-old capacitors and brand new 30-year-old resistors. I was lucky with electronic parts when I was young because Radio Shack charged a lot of money on its electronic parts. And I was lucky, and I'm still lucky because I live, you know, 30 minutes away from it, walking distance. I've got a store hall here called Addison Electronics that, of course, has a lot of electronic parts. And so the difference for me was when I was making up, like I was building circuits at Radio Shack, you had a pack of two resistors for like $1.79 in the 80s. And I remember I would go to Edison Electronics because they had a pack of 10 resistors for 50 cents. It was like so cheap compared to Radio Shack that I would never buy any parts at Radio Shack because I had that store where I could get, a bag with 10 capacitors for 99 cents. I would get only one or two capacitors for $2 at Radio Shack. So I would go there for all the stuff because that was really, really inexpensive. And still is today, technically, even though the prices have gone up, it's still inexpensive at Edison compared to other places. Lymantius has got a hook on shortwave at 10 with Dad's Sharp FV1700 and a Panasonic RF858. While we were stations on Okinawa in middle school, the joy of listening to the BBC, Romania, Moscow was a treat. Can Michael have my QSL card from the BBC from 1980s, Bush House, Front House? I got that card too. But people like us, Radio Shack was, oh man, it was heaven. If I die, I want to be at a Radio Shack. Please put me in a Radio Shack of the 1980s. If I die, I want to be in the Radio Shack of the 1980s. Craig Martinetti remembers Radio RSA and Africans language program. Oh man. The catalog. I always wanted that catalog at Radio Shack and see. I would drool over everything that I couldn't afford to buy. RJ Dakota, very first shortwave radio I ever got to play with was one of my uncle used to have from Sears. It had the Sears logo on it. Yeah. Duggar, I have my Radio Shack DX300 receipt for $259.95, June 1980. That's $938 today in US dollars. So modern portable radios are really good deals in compare. And not only are they good deals, but the good radios that we get for about 150 are better than the Radio Shack DX300. They don't drift. It's like so amazing what we get today. User 2718. Most remember the Crystal Radio Kit. Yep. Craig Martinetti, HDJB, Voice of the Andes, with the DX Party Line, which was my Saturday night listening. Oh, man. Don Royal, WA7330SWL. My first police scanner was crystals. Yeah, the first scanners was crystals. Oh, man, that was so good when the first frequency synthesized scanners appeared and when no more crystals and they listened to everything. Just crazy. So, yeah. Thank you, Sheila, for the tip. Much appreciated. Oh yeah, that was one thing too. That was like HCJB that had like yearly collections of QSL cards. That was kind of cool too. You'd want to have the whole series. It was kind of cool. Miji, nice to have you here. Nice to have you on board. What else do we have? Saludos amigos. Yeah, I like the musical mailbag where they were eating cake and cookies and stuff all along. Storm Rangers and Cats, nice to have you here. Gord, nice to have you here. Joe Tyson, I have a Sony ICF 2010 on a desert island. Well, I try to do the best reviews possible that reflect the reality of what the radio is. Unfortunately, some people take it personal. It's like almost as if I'm insulting you. It's like, look, if you like it, be happy. That's all. And Andrews, much, if not all, of South America's 240. Dead Before Digital, nice to have you here. Radio Kid Air Band, get a cheap scanner off Goodwill. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, box 691. Remember the address. Oh, my God. I was wondering the other day if you listen to HCJB on 6050, if they would still QSL. I don't know. And I really don't know. I'd be curious to try. Sean Beckham says the transistor that came just after vacuum tube was so cool. Ricky Long says another use of sync on the crowded band. Sync can help isolate the station. Yeah, if it's next to another one, you choose the correct sideband. It does help, definitely. Ron Hicks, nice to have you here, KM4LDI. And you got your first shortwave radio. Was there a solar maximum? In 82, we were on the declining side of the cycle, I remember at the time, but we were still very high. And so propagation was great. And I remember listening to one of the regular stations coming in 83 that I would listen to in the summer was Radio Australia on 21740 at night, like at 03, 02, 03 UTC. We were still on a very high part, but it was the declining phase of the, I think it was the 79 maximum. But it was still pretty good. But the peaks, the solar maximums of the 80s were crazy. Communications World Magazine. I remember the first time I went to the local magazine store downtown and saw Popular Communications. It was like, wow, there's a magazine talking about radio. And they would also have the monitoring times. For those that don't know, by the way, monitoring times, and it's very similar. Spectrum Monitor. I'm just going to share the link here. If you guys didn't know, it's electronic only though, but you can subscribe to the Spectrum Monitor, which is really, really very close to what monitoring times was all about. So here's the website for that, the Spectrum Monitor. And yeah, Science Fair brand, the Radio Shack Science Fair brand. So check that out. You can get individual magazines and you can subscribe for a year. It's a pretty good magazine and pretty good radio magazine if you like. John Tempa. Yeah, Archer. A lot of stuff, eh? Science Fair. All the kits. Canada 61 says, when I work at Radio Shack. I lost the. Let me just. Okay. Gotta find it again. Just want to see that. Get trusted for help. Okay, let me try to find where I was. I lost my spot. HCJB on 2602. Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah, there's the, that's another spot. If you guys want to have all the old magazines, history.com, I believe. There's a amazing website I'm going to share with you guys, which is the World Radio History. There you've got every electronics, every radio magazine, some old stuff you never seen probably. So well, like most user 2718, like most brands that Radio Shack had, they were often from other companies. Like a lot of the scanner radios came off of that. What was the name of that company from Taiwan that made scanner radios? And a lot of them came from there back in the day. Vault says there was a question about above 30 megahertz transceivers. I don't think there is one that matches requirements, even for VHF, UHF. I think only Icon, the IC 9700 is the only option, and VHF is no HF. Think Yagis with low noise amplifiers. Blogger Die, when I was in college, I could go down to this salvage yard that had scrap avionics equipment, could strap parts for, buy it for 50 cents a pound. Wow. Craig, yeah, the World Radio TV Handbook is still available to buy. They still have it. There's a 2024 edition. Somebody else took over. Yeah, the World Radio History page is fantastic. Yeah, GRE, that's it, Radio Kid. Radio Kid, thank you. GRE made most of the scanners. There were a few that were Uniden, but most were GRE. WF7I says, I enjoyed going to Addison's when I visited Montreal last year. I hope they at least stay in business. Oh, there's no problem there. They're the top place where everybody goes for all this stuff. It's like they have their own niche little market that makes them, going to stay there forever probably. Tobruk Tim, there's more profit in parts than finished product. Yeah, in general, yeah. Nice to have you here. Do you want a cell phone? Yeah. Michael, nice to have you here from Lafayette. Says I like Lafayette back in the 60s. And what else do we have? Jim F, nice to have you here from Rhode Island. Nice to have you on board. Jim Gardner's crying on his laptop. Yeah, there was it was the day when the religious broadcasters were not annoying like today, where it's, shove in your face religion. At least, they had their their goals that were to convert us into whatever they wanted, but at least it was a little segment here, a little segment there. They had regular programs that were kind of cool. Kevin Michael remembers the realistic 10 channel scanner. Man. Rotten Animal. My first shortwave radio was a Grundig 2047. My father bought it in Germany. Early 50s. Still have it and changed all caps. Still works great. Cool. Kevin Michael says, I just heard that HJB pulled a 690 kHz feed recently. Huh. This evening, first of all, I will need to complete to edit the International Radio Report show for tomorrow morning. But usually Saturday evening is a radio night for me. So I just, turn on a few radios and play around with them for sure. Australia 2170, yeah. RSA 25790, yep. But the Spectrum Monitor, Patriot American, is very, very close to what Monitoring Times was. Jean Arrache in 1970, my father used to have a police crystal radio in his car when he was reported. His car was robbed in the radio station parking garage. The cops found it, but never wanted to give it back. Yeah, there was that time when cops didn't really like we had scanner radios. John Becker, my grandmother bought me my first copy of Electronics Illustrated at a local newsstand. Wow. So cool. Cool souvenirs. Oh, wow. Jean Arrache, pretty interesting. So what else here? Brian Penny, nice to have you on board from Cape Cod. Grew up with Lafayette Radio Electronics within bicycle distance. That was fun. When you live close to a Radio Shack or anything else. I lived close to Radio Shack and Addison Electronics. I had two fantastic places I would go to. It was just so cool. Yeah, well, the solar activity radio kit is pretty high now, so all of the higher frequencies come in really late at night. Yeah, Tobruk Tim Heath kit, another very popular name. I remember, I don't know how I had stumbled. I think it's from somebody somebody in the family that knew I liked radio and stuff, and he had given me a big Heathkit catalog from in the 80s sometime. I remember looking at it and thinking, wow, this is so cool. Malcolm Lewis, nice to have you here in Southwest UK. Many years ago, I used to visit Tandy stores, which I believe was owned by Radio Shack. Yeah, in Europe, they were branded Tandy, but it was technically was Radio Shack. Mad Radio DXer UK, nice to have you here. I'm 7EIOW. Nice to have you here. That will be possible, Danny Shortwave. A lot of AI stuff will get on the radio at some point. It's going to be pretty crazy. MDK2, judging from the way most police and emergency services have switched to encoded trunk systems, they still don't like scanners. Yeah. Drone YouTuber. Has there so far been any similar antenna superior to the MLA30? For the price range, I know that a lot of people have like the latest K180 WLA seems to be pretty good and has a wider range of receive. So that could be something also. You just have to be careful to set it up right with the to remove the overload on FM. So you need to. There's apparently a switch in it to change that. John Beckham, yeah, Radio Moscow, yeah, they were crazy, and that hum. I still remember that hum on all Radio Moscow broadcasts. It's almost as if it was subliminal or something. Lagerdice still has a Heathkit multimeter. Wow, pretty crazy. David says in Spain, Ditronics, which is a pretty cool electronics store, all kinds of products, even RF stuff. Wow, cool. Pretty crazy. Well, at some point, I started. What station was I listening to the other day? I was tuning around the AM band, and I would swear there that an ad came on one of the US stations that sounded like an ad made by AI. It was so weird that it was like, this sounds like it's computer generated. And we're going to have more and more of that for sure. I mean, John Mackin enjoyed putting up outdoor long wires. Yeah, man, I did that so much back in the day. Oh yeah, and you know what? It's going to get better and better all the time, Blogger Die. We will at some point not even know that it's AI. That's crazy. L. Robertson, nice to have you here. So I want to talk a little bit about this radio and talk about the feedback as I'm down. So you guys have seen my review of the Shoyoung LC90. So long wave, medium wave, shortwave with SSB, multiband, and smart radio, which means it also incorporates streaming of internet radio stations. So, what I wanted to mostly say is that after my review, which puts the radio into a zone where it's like it's a nice effort, a really nice effort. I mean, they're the first that does it all. They're the first that went there. I got a message, a pretty long email from the CEO, Shoyoung. So what they said is that they what they find sad is because of my review, their sales have gone half. They lost 50% of sales since my review. So I think the CEO was kind of impressed that one guy on YouTube had such a big power in radio sales. And he tells me, he says, it's obvious you have a huge influence on the world of radio. So we're in, he's not mad. He finds it sad, he finds it sad, but he's not mad. And he actually has told me that if there are other radios, he would be happy to send me other radios, including some internet only radios. What he told me is that when they went on sale, when this thing was designed, he said that they knew about the birdie issues, the internal noise on the radio bands. And somebody went with the let's sell them anyway. And he said one of the fears that he had was how many returns he would get because of that. And he said he was surprised to see that when the radio went on sale, and apparently in China is extremely popular, he said there were very little returns. And he says what it seems like is most people that purchased it as a streaming internet radio device. From what he says, is most people that buy one doesn't care about the radio side. They don't go on the shortwave side. They don't do that. So that would explain why they sell a lot and there's no returns or very little returns out of it. Now, he said that there's a LC100 that's in the making. And he said that after my review, that he told the engineering team that it will be not acceptable that the smart radio electronics interferes with the radio side. And he says we will not put the LC100 out until they fix that. So that is interesting because it tells me that if they could bring LC100 out, that would be a whole, a full package like this, smart radio with AM, FM, long wave, shortwave, and that it does it well. It would be a big winner. We'd have our first real good does it all radio. So I think that's going to be nice. And he told me that there will be several internet radios from Shoyoung that will hit the US market this year. And he actually told me, asked me if I wanted to review them. They're internet only radios. They don't have anything else. So those will be internet only. But they got like 3 or 4 models that will be coming out for the US market. Now, somebody asked me, what's the aggregator in here? So the aggregator, what is that? Is because it's in a smart radio. It has to get its radio stations from somewhere. And everybody got burned. A lot of people got burned, including me, with the first shutdown of an aggregator. Anybody that had a radio that was based on the receiver aggregator, you probably have noticed that your radio became a big brick because, unless you had specific links still working in the radio, you couldn't do anything anymore with it. So people are scared of that because since that happened, it means, well, any radio that is a smart radio can do the same. They could shut down the aggregator. And yes, we've got to think about that because it will and it could still happen. So like I have the CNGN WFR32. It's also, of course, used as an aggregator. The aggregator they have is their own. They have built their own aggregator, and they're saying that it's getting better all the time. Meaning, when somebody says, well, not every station is there, not all of it is there, they want to have feedback. They are making it better. They are adding stations. They are adding stuff. There are 2 aggregators right now for this radio. One is in China for the Chinese market. One is in Silicon Valley in California for the rest of the world, basically. So that means that this radio right now plugs into the Silicon Valley aggregator in California. They will be at Hamvention. So if you're going to Hamvention, go and check out their booth. They will have internet radios there and all of that. Probably have this. They'll have the mini version of this too. And they will be showing things off. So how about going to their booth and talking to them? Actually, I told I told them, tell the representative that will be there, and tell him my name from the shortwave channel. If somebody comes up, says, yeah, well, I've seen your radios on the official shortwave channel. That person will be going to say, oh, yes, we know about that. So hopefully the LC100 could be a better radio. And I'm actually hoping the best for that company. They talk to us. They seem to really want to make things better. and it's obvious that they're working hard to try to have an improved version of DLC 90. So I'm happy with what I got. I got it for free. I can't complain that much, but and I did tell them, even if I get it for free, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be very, very fair and honest. This is what my channel is all about. If something's wrong, something's wrong. So that's pretty much it. What I wanted to say on this radio, and hopefully they'll have the LC100. That's going to be a better radio, and I will probably be testing some internet radios that they're making because they seem to be wanting me to try them. I think they understand that this channel is a very important channel for radio, and I think that's something that they really want to make sure that I can talk about those things correctly. Okay, what else do we have? Let's go down, try to answer some questions. So everybody. Drone YouTuber, is the recent change in climate having any effect on shortwave listening? If so, how and to what extent detrimental or advantageous? There's all sorts of things. First of all, the climate change has no effect on radio propagation, but it could have an effect on the radio, of course, if you live in a place around the world where things are getting a little more difficult and power outages are more frequent. You might have more radio, John Beckham says, remember getting a toilet paper roll, 7 winding, at least 100 windings of copper wire around the roll. Oh man. Stars, Raiders, and Cats. My 8th kit 30 and 1 electronic slab was always wired up for an AM transmitter. I believe it or not, it covered a quarter mile with some mods and a longer legal wire antenna. Longer than legal, yeah. I did the same. I had a small AM. I pretty much did a pirate station. I had a small AM transmitter kit, and I had said it worked on 6 volts. I powered on 12 volts, so kind of doubled the power pretty much. And I put my shortwave long wire on it as the antenna. And I remember that my friend at the corner of the street, which was maybe, I don't know, I'd say 500 feet away, could hear me. And on Friday nights, I'd do I would do like the real radios. I'd power it on and tell my friend, hey, I'm going to be on the radio. And he found that a blast. He would listen to me. And I do the like the top 40 hits of the week on that little radio station. It was kind of cool. Had a lot of fun with that. I'd call up everybody in a small range and say, hey, tune your radio to like, 1170 a.m. Do you hear me? SWAT Cats, I had the 201 electronics lab from Radio Shack too. Yep. If you guys want to know when e-skip happenings happen and when FM DX is happening, the best place to go is here, DX Maps. And if you look at the top, you can check for 50 megahertz 6-meter openings, but there's also FMDX. You click there, shows you on the map where FMDX in real time is happening. So this is a great place to check out for special radio propagation conditions, dxmaps.com. Okay. What else do we have? Like WX50, my first outside long wire antenna was wrapped around a tree branch. This was before learning about insulators. Oh, man. Yeah, it's kind of Cybertruck of radios. Yeah, the other reviews I got, of course, Far Point Farms that came to my channel posted a message about me being an idiot and that I should learn manners rather than tell everybody that his review is bad. So, yeah, it seems somebody is an influencer, basically. I was surprised. I didn't think I could have an impact that's that big. I honestly thought, well, maybe I could have somewhat of an impact, but to learn from them that the sales went down by half after my review, it was like, whoa, okay. And then I think he was very impressed. And the email, it's obvious he's like, okay, you do have a pretty big influence. And that it did surprise me, honestly. Um, I would not have thought that I could have such an impact. Well, that's the thing. It's having, honest reviews. Sean Beckham, yes, indeed. Whatever Jill says is always true for the most part. Yeah, I mean, and the reviews are always based on actual facts. It's not somebody would came in and said, well, it's your opinion. It's not an opinion. An opinion is, I like this radio better than that one because it's square or it's rectangle or, yeah, that's an opinion. This radio has a hard time because it has birdies. I did not give an opinion on birdies. I just tell you there's birdies that are preventing you from listening to the stuff you want. That's not an opinion. It's a fact. The Ethon 750. Oh, it's your opinion. No, it's not an opinion. The wide is too wide and the wide filter, and it's off frequency. Oh, yours is broken. It's not. They're all like that. It's not an opinion. So it's like, oh, God. So yeah, that's Farm Point Farm's best radio ever. Seems more like a you know clickbait. Yeah, and Andrews, absolutely. Anybody that wants to make a decent radio, they should pay me to give them, my honest look at it as how good it is. User 2718 says, honestly, the layperson is heavily influenced for purchasing decisions by reviewers. Hence, the fake reviews on Amazon and YouTube hard to navigate. Yeah, that's why when I purchase something, if I purchase something on Amazon, I'll if it has 5 reviews, I know that you can't. There's no, I can't trust that. You took 5 friends, even on eBay. Oh, there's 10 good reviews. Yeah, you found 10 friends to review. That's where I look at those. That's like, okay, here's that 3,495 reviews. Yeah, okay. He didn't find 3,000 people to review. He reviewed. There's a lot of real reviews in there. You know. Um, Matt says, Jill, makes you wonder if your reviews of the ICR30 had anything to do with it being discontinued. it did it did cross my mind. And when I started saying about how the Icom SCR30 was not worth its price, um, somebody had sent me an email when they discontinued it and said, at the time, do you think what you said on the radio has an effect on the reason for them to discontinue it? And for me, it seemed to be too much. It was like, I don't think I could have an influence to that extent that it would do that. But now that the Shoyang company comes back to me, makes you wonder. Maybe I did have enough of an impact that the sales went down. It's something I'll never know. But the thing is, they are really, um, listening. Mad Radio DX, the LC90 is supposed to have the same chip as the TEF6686, which is the one in the Kodaseng radio, I believe. But yeah, that is a weird one. I was surprised that with such a beautiful display that displays everything and as scrolling text on the internet radio, smart radio side. Why is there no RDS? It's bizarre. I don't understand the decision. And it's something that maybe I should tell them. So, RJ Coda, if radio comes out, would be if that radio comes out, would be a huge success, and I would love to have it. Then, would love to see this one improve. Shoryong, yep, CHORYONG. And I do totally appreciate the fact that they really seem so open and really want to work with people, So, Ransi, howdy, nice to have you here. It would be nice in one way if the that Shoyong radio would be like more like an H501 stereo speakers and better audio. I mean, the audio is great, but my Sangean WFR32 blows it away in the audio department. So that could be nice, especially a lot of people stream music channels. Sean Beckham says, you have influenced me to buy several of the radios that I currently own. So, Joe is realer than real. How real can you be? Craig, I have a question. Which shortwave broadcaster do you want to see come back with English language broadcasts? I don't know. I'd like to see something like Radio Netherlands, maybe. That'd be kind of nice. Something like that. RJ Dakota, I do have an Ocean digital internet radio. It's a nice little device. The aggregator is something the company claims to have built on its own. So you have to hope the company continues for a while. KWLM61, don't operate those AM radio transmitters in New York City nowadays unless you want to meet Uncle Charlie. Yeah. Metalunar, some good aggregators that you can use on the phone. Well, there's a lot of good, like on the phone, different apps have different streaming capabilities. A lot of them come close to a place, but things like Radio Garden, great, Broadcastify, TuneIn Radio. They're pretty good. Keegan has a Talking House AM transmitter. Yeah, pretty cool. What else do we have? Just trying to see if I haven't missed anything. Farmer and Farms used to come across as a fairly nice guy. Now it's clear he's another social media hustler. Yeah. I left his message to show him that I don't care about, I have no problem about you coming over to my channel and telling me what you think of me. But apparently I'm a inconsiderate asshole that needs manners in Canada. And you know what? I don't care. It is important to be fair for sure, because um, if you guys buy radios because of me, wouldn't be really cool, you know. Mad Rated EX, I remembered when I got a Malahit clone, which I did a video of, and I got dislikes and comments from those saying that I was wrong about its flaws. It's like to deny the truth even though it is flaws. And it's also, I guess, you paid our cash for something and you get insulted because somebody else says that what you purchased is not good. It's almost as if you insulted the person itself. I'm just telling you that thing is kind of crappy. I can understand, and a very a great example is the Ethon 750 here. I can understand, I mean, how sexy can you be? If a radio looks like that, it's darn sexy. I can understand that some people like it. I only wanted to demonstrate, use it, and show also the flaws. But I still can understand why somebody says, I like it. You've learned to cope with its flaws and you use it. Great. It's okay. I'm not insulting you. I'm telling you what I think of that radio. I'm telling you what the flaws are in that radio. That's it. People got to stop taking these things so personal. John Beckham says today's consumer needs to have someone that they can trust for honest reviews these days in radios as well as other things. Like on my tag channel, people like tell me all the times like, review antivirus software. No, because I don't think it's that great, and it's not that keeps you safe. You won't have me test out antivirus. Well, all the tech channels do it because it brings them traffic and money. I mean, and they sell advertising ads to antivirus companies. It's as if here I had it, how would it be if I had a text and ad every 30 minutes and then a XH data ad every 30 minutes? It doesn't make it serious. It doesn't make it like I'm, there was a kind of a, how should I say, a bias type reviewing that came out many years ago out of the Passport to World Band Radio. And back in the day, they had a lot of Grundig ads. And all the Grundigs, some were saying that were getting better ratings than they actually should have. And the reason behind it was that there was grande ads everywhere in the passport to world band radio. And it was a fact. It's something that was discussed a lot at some point. You know, if you have ads for a radio company, it's difficult for you to say they're bad when they're bad because you get money coming out of it. That's why, when I talked about the brewing machine that someone wanted me to advertise on my live shows and on videos, well, it has nothing to do with radio. I'm talking about beer, and that's it. It's the content is different, doesn't have anything to do with radio, so it's okay. I'm looking at maybe having a little bit of advertising that I would do like that, talking about products, but none of them will have to be related to my content because that would not look good. You know how if I would be a big gun Texan, guy talking with like having ads about all the radios, gets hard to tell that a Texan receiver is bad when you're getting cash out of it at the same time. It's like, I don't want to, it's fine, but all those YouTube channels that say, well, if you want to buy a new shortwave radio, here's my Amazon link because I'll get a little something out of you purchasing a radio. I've never gone there because nope. I'm sorry. That's not part of what I want to be. It's fine if you do it. And I mean, everybody's searching for ways to monetize content. I certainly do. I mean, YouTube's advertising revenue is crappy compared to a few years ago. So, y'all try to find ways to get more cash out of other things. But that's not one. For me, that would not be one. We're an endangered species, says Kevin Michael. We are. We are. Nice classical music on 11800 Radio Romania, Blogger Die. Kelvin61 says, had for me to take someone seriously when you call medium wave middle wave, like a certain point on YouTube. So middle wave is good. Gunsi a poopy spoop. There is no candy coating. You saved a lot of folks from making a costly purchase. On the nature of a truthful review. That's the way it is. That's the way it is. Let me check here. Try to go down a little bit. What is your most favorite radio of all time and why? I'll be very fair. I cannot say I have a favorite radio of all time. I've had too many now, and I go with at a certain point in time that was the best radio. At a certain point in time, I moved on to something else that now is my new best radio. And even then, I don't have a best radio. Yeah, okay. I could say my Yaesu FTDX10 is my best radio right now. But it's a transceiver. It's for amateur radio use, but it's also great, but it's super expensive. And, I'm not really going there there's one that was the best ever. I changed year to year to what I'm listening to, what I'm using, and so on. I'm not kind of tied to a model. I like my Kenwood R5000. It's great. I moved on with something else. Now I have an SDR. I prefer SDRs than the big gun, tabletops. So I can't say I favor this is the best of the best, or this has always been my favorite. Um, they're all the good ones. They all have a spot in my heart in some way. Um, but I can't say, this is the best. What else do we have? Craig Martinetti, his broadcast brings a lot of great memories. Miss a lot of, we have to go forward and have to look from now on what we have, and and take that as more as a positive side. Um, Thinking of the past is gone. You can't do anything about it. Alabama Red, I agree with others here that Farm Point Farms, when first watched, did seem like a great guy, but after a few videos, he does the least possible research. Get a video made. I think he's a hack. Metaliner, still just wonder if RDS just isn't used around the world much, specifically in China. Yeah. Is there, well, okay, we can't fairly say that because in Europe, a lot of the bands now are digital DAB, and that contains content on the screen. RDS is really purely a function of analog radio that contains a data stream in it to display information. So um, I've had somebody tell me on the one of the comments that in the United States where he lives, RDS isn't used on almost any FM station. Here in Montreal, it's surprising RDS is used a lot. And almost every music station on RDS, you'll have the weather, you'll have the title and of the song playing, the artists, and all of that, which is great. But it seems to be unequal. RDS doesn't seem to be used everywhere in the same way. And like I said, if we ever go digital, well, Kev Michael, I hope they quit using DSP chips because there's a downside. Well, I don't think that's ever going to happen because that makes the radios much less expensive. But when done right with a DSP chip, it actually works well. An example is on a radio like the just like at the CNGN ATS 909X2, for example. It does use the DSP chip, and because the way they use it and the stage in which they put it, it actually makes it decent radio technically. John Gary, Joan YouTuber, do you enjoy transmitting or DXing the most? I'm more of a listener than a transmitter. So an example of that is my Yaesu FTDX10 is probably used in transmitting for ham radio purpose less than 1% of the time. Let's say 5% to be kind of but honestly, this radio is listening almost a lot more than transmitting. Yeah, Ecuadorian music. You know what, Craig? On 6050, which is the last frequency that HCJB from Quito, Ecuador uses, they had a couple of weeks back some Ecuadorian music. Darn, it was um, really amazing. It was like it brought me back to the days of HCJB. Oh yeah, absolutely. If the quota send as RDS, and I'm sure the LC90, it's a question. I actually wondered if it was not just a change in firmware, upgrade the firmware and add the feature. It could be just a firmware change. Yeah, John, back in the DSP is radio. The DSP chips used today are all radios on a chip. And they're very, very they're very good, pretty good. And but what you add around it in circuitry will, um, will make it even better. Sometimes you sound like Mr. Texan. I mean, they have some good radios, but like because we talked a lot about Texan for a while, also because they launch so many radios in a rapid succession, including a couple of high-end radios, and in general, they were pretty good. You know, and Andrews, they get mad for me at me for a comment I make about the new CBs with only 5-digit frequency displays on a $400 CB. I want the 6 digit for that price. Yeah. Kevin JN, nice to have you here. I don't think you should be showing off that 6750 so early in the broadcast. Children could be watching. Oh, man. Patriot American, what web-based site do you recommend for shortwave frequencies, times, shows? Years ago, the phone apps I use is shortwave SCED. I don't think it gets updated anymore. You could go to a couple of places. My place for accurate shortwave, even though it's not for most people the sexiest way to get frequencies and times. It's the EIBI space because it's the most accurate of all. But you could go to short-wave.info, but these have frequencies and times for broadcasts. But that is one of the best, personally. Like Matt MDK2 says. Any shortwave to this take channels, antivirus, VPN ads every minute. Yep. Jay, when it does, and it's fine. That's what I tell on my channel. And then you get all the fanboys that come back and say, well, you're wrong. And I got the big gun Norton, whatever, 360. And it's like, fine with you. You just don't need it. What's there is fine. What protects you is what you do in the updates. No antivirus protects you if you're an idiot on the internet. Joe Tyson, Yardboy 400 was pretty good. I never owned one myself. I went with the Sony ICF 7600. I had a Yardboy 400. I purchased it at a Radio Shack location. No, not a Radio Shack, sorry. At a electronics store downtown Montreal. I wanted to have one because it was so well, because the Passport of the World band radio said it was so good, and it was a decent radio. It was a decent radio. I owned it and sold it to my uncle that repaired TVs back in the day. Alabama Red says that guy from Farm Point Farms, a home mechanic, works on the public vehicles in his home garage setup. Huh. Okay. How about Prunus radios? I've not encountered one that was really good, personally. Let me just get back. I lost my spot again and try to go back a little faster. Try to find. Okay, trying to find my spot. Here we go. Sorry, guys. I do sometimes lose my spots. Okay. MDK2, appreciate your integrity. It's just to them that if someone's taking revenue from a manufacturer, then there's an inherent conflict of interest. Yeah, exactly. So, As Patrick says, once the internet became a thing, Grundig's flaws started to show, like with the 800 radio, then the E1 series, which ended up being discounted heavily at Circuit City. Yeah, but that wasn't Grundig anymore. That was made by other companies, and you know, 123 ABC. Should I buy a second PL 990 for 160? It's all up to you, but I would probably look really well into something else. Why not? If you want a second radio, why not get a different radio? Or maybe get an SDR if you don't have one already. Oh yeah, there's a lot of stuff on YouTube about shortwave radio, definitely. Radio Switzerland, yes, Swiss Radio International. And Andrews, I just remembered I used your reviews on the Texan PL330 for my decision and just noticed they recently upgraded to USB-C for charging. Yeah, probably cost effective because now everybody's moving to these same connectors. Oh, that's a problem of all the radios, as Patrick. The clocks on. I don't have one radio that the clock keeps time really well. None of any brand. It seems to be very, very difficult in 2024 to have an accurate clock. That's the good thing about this radio, though. The LC90 synchronizes over the web. You're always perfect. All it needs to be perfect radio too. Radio Sweden, yeah. By the way, Radio Sweden has for those that miss Radio Sweden, they have a weekly 30-minute podcast in English on their website. I listen to it on my St. Jean WFR 32 radio every week. It's fun to have Radio Sweden, at least one thing. Blackguard, I love the DX300. I had the little variant of it. My second radio I owned after the DX100 was a DX302. They looked pretty much alike. I don't remember what was the slight difference, but I had the 302. Yeah, the SCA said the sub channels for programming Storms, Raiders, and Cats. There's still a few stations that do it. I don't know where it is. I've showed you guys once. I have the little portable that does the sub carrier. I have to find it. I put it somewhere. I do have that little radio with sub carrier capability. There are two stations here in Montreal that have sub carrier programs on it. There are two ethnic stations. Radio Kid, middle wave could be a bad reverse translation of middle wave instead of medium wave, probably a result of translating all of those Grundig ads. RJ Dakota says every FM stations in his area has a completely different way of using RDS. Blog and Ardai says in Central Virginia, less than half the stations seem to have RDS, and some of them are poorly implemented. The Eton Elite Executive has the best RDS implementation. There's a few radios that are great with their RDS, definitely. The Eton, yeah. And there's a few of them that are great. Craig Martinetti, maybe some of the former shortwave broadcasters watch your show if they read the comments and people are showing love for the radios, their stations. They just might bring back their station. Yeah, the problem, what's the problem with the stations that are gone? is that when you shut down a station but you keep the equipment, that's one thing. There's a possibility of coming back. And an example of that, Spain. We had lost Radio Exterior de España, and they weren't there for a while, but everything, the transmitters, everything was kept. So when the government decided, no, we were going to reactivate the foreign service, it was easy. It's just creating the programming. All the equipment's still there, no problem. It's when they destroy the transmitter sites, then it's over. It's game over, because the price that it will cost to bring it back is too high. An example of that is Radio Canada International. You know, the CBC still keeps that money that's supposed to be done for in international broadcasts, and they've done a joke of a website that does, you know, RCI stuff, and it's hidden like so deep into the CBC website that it's impossible to find. There's a reason behind the fact that they destroyed the Sackville transmitter site so fast. And I mean, here in Canada, like most things done by governments and government agencies and stuff, you know, everything's very slow. It takes years for things to happen. It's funny how Radio Canada International's Sackville transmitter site just took a few weeks to get off. Here, it's gone. We have destroyed it. It cannot be brought back. It was purely, people at the CBC, Radio Canada, that just didn't want that to come back. They didn't want it so bad that they said, let's destroy that as fast as possible. No more transmitters. Hey, the government's not going to say, well, we need $30 million to build a new transmitter site. That's too much money. That's pretty much what happened. Which is sad when you think about it. Yeah, there are some radios, absolutely, like Block or Die says, some radios do adjust the clock automatically from RDS. But you have to have a station that implements that. So, yeah, subcarriers still exist. Unfortunately, I don't have it close. I'm just going to do a quick look. If I see it, I'll bring it out. But it's somewhere, and I don't know where. It's somewhere, I don't know where. Yeah, unfortunately. Because I still have it here, and definitely. There's still two subcarrier stations here in Montreal. I had purchased that radio only for that capability. Yeah, there's the radio I purchased is I don't even know if it's still made. It was a little portable, and I purchased it, I think, through Amazon. And it's made to it's an FM only radio, and it's made with two subcarrier switches that you can go from one to the other to see if there's subcarrier information on some stations. I don't remember the brand. It's a weird brand. It's sad that I don't have it close, because it'd be kind of fun. Here, it's not this. It's not that one. I don't think it's this one either. Yeah. Fortunately, I don't have it close. It's in a box somewhere. Need to take it up. WFI 79 Ombrew says, I try to explain to a millennial Gen Z person the magic of things like HEJB music or all the interval signals from around the world. They really didn't get it. Yeah, pretty much. Man, it's kind of hard to. Yeah, WRMI. The talking about people watching this, it happened. There were some people that did watch that were on um, the the live shows or some videos. There's a Rich McVicker from HCJB once. There's from time to time we do have one well-known personality that does. So Paul Richardson, not far from me, an Airbnb old prison has RCI stuff. Wow. David, for RAE, there was a lot of pressure, mainly from fishermen who apparently relied a lot on shortwave for their information, hoping the Bleja stays up and running for a long time. Yep, yep. And there was a lot of that going on, even like on the medium wave, long wave signals coming out of the UK from different stations when they were being shut down. A lot of fishermen were saying, that once we're at sea, there's nothing that works. The only thing we hear are the long wave and the medium wave signals. Lagarde says the Ethan lead executive, quote saying SR286, XH data D808 can set the clock. The D808 only handles the European variant. Some of the information is wrong. Okay. Yeah, Deutsche Welle from West Germany. Jetcrafter, nice to have you here from Southern Maine. Yeah, that radio Ricky Sudvarpid, something like that, that was out of Iceland. That's kind of weird. David P. Miller. Um, there's so many things that we aren't sure of anything. That Havana syndrome is kind of a weird thing. What is it, and what? And we have to not forget that there's also the human nature of, if you get into a room and everybody around you start feeling something weird, it's easy to also start feeling weird. It's easy for somebody to get into that hype because mentally we're wired for that kind of thing. So it's kind of weird. I don't know what's, that Havana syndrome thing. What is it? They're not finding anything. What is it? I don't know. Yes, there are probably ways to, the hum on the transmitters is probably a normal hum, but I'm sure somebody out there was thinking that maybe the hum had some liminal messages or something, that we were kind of playing with our minds. I don't know. Up to what point that is possible in any way. I'm sure it's not zero. I mean, all of these tapes and things that came out through the years, that like you put earphones and you go to sleep and you're supposed to stop smoking, for example. Um, for sure our brain is wired to get info that we don't visually, or even our ears will not catch, but our brain might see something or hear something we don't. It might process an information we have no idea is there, you know. And there's been a lot of experiments with that in over the years, and we know there are ways to alter somewhat somebody's mind with all sorts of indirect messages, like the experiments they did in the movie theaters. If they put a once every 60 seconds Coca-Cola ad bottle or whatever, or popcorn, it seems that there's an increase in people wanting to buy a Coke or get a popcorn. So we don't see it, but our brain is wired to see something or hear something sometimes. You never know. These are the kind of things that are like out there, And who knows? KW61. Radio Kid RCI needs to produce programming again and run it on WRMI. Yeah, that's one of the things that we thought of. You know, when the war happened in Ukraine, I mean, um, the Ukrainian service of RCI, all these people were available to do something. They would have been happy to do a show in Ukrainian, for example, and it would cost next to nothing to a CBC, Radio Canada, to pay transmitter time on WRMI. You know, and I think a lot of the stations, like look at Radio Sweden with that podcast, cost nothing. You know, I I I should write them and let them know. You know what? You could have a return on shortwave if you send that weekly podcast to WRMI and have it play at different times on the week. It costs you almost nothing, and people on shortwave would hear you again because you're still there. Um, Poland, Polski Radio, they have apparently an English 1 hour English that they make every day. Why don't why don't you pay this? Because for a big service like that, the fee that WRMI charges is so small. You could be back on shortwave in some way. Why not try it? Do it. You know? Yeah, like most people, like or die. Pretty much most people, the only HD radio they have is in their cars. So, WRMI is a great, great thing. There should be a, a, a lot of these stations go on WRMI. What else do we have? Okay, let me. We also already answered that question, C3PO. Belka does not receive the VHF airband. It receives the air traffic controls off of shortwave. So, Danny Shortwave says, I've seen a video on the Metrosonics FMC subcarrier receiver a few years ago. I know in NYC, depending on the neighborhood, you can pick a SCA signals. Yeah, it's a lot of, it seems here, anyways, it's used mostly for people that of ethnic, they have kind of their ethnic programming on subcarriers. Saudi abandoned RCI storefront in Ottawa last year. Kevin Michael, why are you shutting down Longwave? Because it costs a lot of money to operate. It's big, powerful transmitters. Takes so much land space that they, of course, see that they can sell that land for a lot of money. There's also probably a decline in people listening to long wave and even medium wave, so they could probably see that, and they end up taking these decisions. What's the deal with the low modulation of Radio Cuba on 6000? John Beckham, they're using old Soviet transmitters that are probably going like breaking down, and they have no replacement parts and can't find those anywhere. Unless they would make a really good deal with China, and it could go like Mali. Like look at the Mali Chinese transmitters. I mean, the relay was done before on the Mali transmitters. They were getting old, so China actually installed brand new Chinese transmitters in Mali. So I guess the only way that Cuba could really slowly come back on shortwave decently, because they're there, but they're there off and on. So there's part of it is they would have to strike a deal with China and get some Chinese transmitters. And the other thing is, part of the problem also of being off the air for them is there's been a lot of power outages in Cuba. They're having a hard time there. They're really having a hard time. VE5SAR, my psychogenic illness is one term for a group experimenting similar symptoms from the power suggestions. Thank you. Um, it's something I never thought of, but you definitely, Craig, reach. I actually have a few of the old guys that were popular guys on different stations. I have a couple of them in my Facebook friends from Radio Netherlands. I've got two from HCJB on my Facebook. I also have, and I know a lot of people that can direct me to a lot of known um, broadcasters of the day. That is a very interesting suggestion. Um, Even making just a video, having somebody interviewing somebody. That is a good idea, actually. You're giving me an interesting idea here. Danny Shortwave says, I listened to a few subliminal tapes, MP3. Some did help with remembering learning material on habits. I have tons of audio courses. Danny Shortwave says, yeah, ethnic programming mostly here too. Yeah. Here we have a Sri Lankan station. And the other one, what is the other one? One is Sri Lanka. And I think the other one has Arabic programming. BT Radio, while traveling to New Jersey in October, I got to listen to WPHT in HD for an hour or two, not just a split second. Cool. Yeah, Transworld Radio Bonaire on 800 kilohertz still there. That's still there. You just don't have any shortwave transmitters anymore. So take care, Patriot American. Let's go down here. Vasti says, picked up the Amalahite DSP2, great little SUR portable. Most people that own it seem to really enjoy it. Voice is going low. Sometimes there's no voice at all, or sometimes the voice is there, but the modulation is all distorted. They're having a lot of problem. So, hey guys, hope you enjoyed today's show. Been on for 3 hours and 30 minutes, and I'm hungry. I'm going to get my pizza. I have to edit the International Radio Report show for CKUT tomorrow morning. I want to thank you all for those that donated. If you do want to give a little something, you can also donate through the PayPal and send me a little something. That helps me a lot. And there was a pretty good show. Absolutely. We talked about so many different things today, which was kind of very, very interesting. So it's going to be it's going to be it's a pretty good one too. It was entertaining to also do. We went to different directions we don't go often, and it was a lot of fun for that. So next show, unless something happens and I decide that I go live, because that could happen at any time. I've been thinking sometimes of, maybe you could, just for fun of it, and not just as Saturdays on like random times and random days. So that could happen throughout May. Don't be surprised. I might even do some from outside with just my phone and, an hour, not necessarily 3 or 4 hours, but, maybe just an hour and a half. We'll see. So the next show is Saturday, June 1st. So the first Saturday is the first day of June. So Saturday, June 1st, 20 hours Universal Time. Like I said, probably around the 15th of June will be the Zoom. Everybody that have donated, I need your email. Make sure I have your email so I can add you to the list of people that will be joining the Zoom in mid-June. And hey, we'll have another time. So pizza time coming up. And take care, guys. It was a lot of fun. Thanks for being here, and hope you enjoy the show as usual. Stay safe during the month of May, and who knows what's going to happen. So take care, everybody. Love you all. Okay. Do stay safe.